Yeah,
what goes down.
we're all worried about meeting our significant's parents, but Punpun went a little crazy, huh, Gabe?
Well, welcome to another episode of Volume 1, the anime and manga podcast, where we usually review the first volume of a brand new manga each week. But today is our Part 3 final episode of our Goodnight Punpun volume done. My name is Josh Oyasumi Michaels. I don't know if we used that one before, but today, as always, I'm joined by...
Megan Good Vibrations Perrine.
Oh, fuck.
Cody the Noose Decker.
Oh my god.
Oh
my god.
Nailed it.
I mean, you did nail it, but Jesus Christ.
We did do Oyasumi. You did do Oyasumi.
I did do it last time?
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, good night, Josh Magic Michael.
Oh, well, either way.
It's fine. We're bringing it back.
Yeah. It was so good.
Yeah, it was so good we had to do it again.
Today is the last part of our Goodnight Punpun volume done. It's going to be covering chapter 79 through 147, volumes 8 through 13, all the way up until the very end of the series. I want to do it a little less chronologically this time. Also, our apologies for the last episode being almost 3 hours long. I know that there's, I'm sure there's people out there that didn't mind and possibly even enjoyed it. But I'm sure there's people who were like, this is way too long. So in this episode, we're going to try to we're going to try to rein it in and keep it a little more concise and give you our honest sort of feelings about the series in its entirety as opposed to being so chronological. But that's what part 3s are all about,
Okay.
Okay.
Speaking of part 3s.
Speaking of part 3, we left off right before we met Sachi, which I didn't know how big of a character this person was going to be. Honestly, having finished the series, I just want to say a couple things about like how I felt in the second half versus how I felt in the first half. The first half, it did feel like I was a voyeur, right? Like I was peering into somebody else's life. But in this half, it felt like I was a father watching their child destroy themselves. And more specifically, I felt like I was my dad watching me like, what are you doing? It was a different feeling this half of the season.
Definitely.
I thought it was going to take a more positive turn at the end.
Oh, no, dude.
I was expecting it to not. I knew just from what I've heard from other people, they're like, oh, no, it only gets worse from here. And I'm like, cool. And it's like, I wasn't rooting for him in the first half because I was like, this guy, he's not my favorite character. He kind of sucks. And then things start like happening. People get introduced to him. And I'm like, oh, maybe he could be a better person. Maybe he can try to be better. And I'm rooting for him now. And then it just...
Yeah, I've never simultaneously been so glad. I'm so glad that I'm done reading this series, but not for the reasons that you're typically glad a series is over.
I didn't enjoy reading this,
but it's really good. It's one of the best mangas I've ever read.
Yeah.
This is the thing, I don't like watching dramas. I don't like watching sad things. So this is something where I would have dropped it because it's like it gets so sad. I don't want to spend my time reading something so sad.
Yeah, dude. It's like it's an emotional, physical. It's almost like a guttural experience.
Yeah.
It's not an enjoyable thing.
Emotionally, how I felt about it too. I did not cry or like really feel like, oh no. It did feel. I just felt sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just dread. Just like reading it, I was like, like I was like getting headaches, and I was reading something else, and I was like, oh, this is such a nice little break from this horrible darkness that I have to go into again, and then I'm just like, and I was reading it again, and it was like a cloudy day, and I was like,
yeah,
it's one of those series that you just like it sits with you. And you kind of carry it around for a while.
Yeah, I was waiting for it to just like wash off. I was like, all right, time for some positive things.
Yeah.
Although I will say the after, when it all washed away, I was like, I think that it was an experience. That's how I would describe this, and I think you'll feel different after reading it.
Kind of like life, huh?
Yeah.
It's an experience, huh? That we all share.
I feel like
In a way, we're all birds. I think it was the moral.
I think that is the takeaway from this. There's a little bit of bird in all of us.
Squawk, squawk.
Dude,
Squawk, squawk, bitches.
Yeah, dude, I do feel like now that I've had time to sit with it, and now that it has sort of like kind of washed over me a little bit more, and I'm not really in it, I do feel better about it. But every time, like even preparing for this episode, like I would kind of start to feel better, and then I'd go back to prepare and write a list of events that I wanted to talk about. And even just skimming through it again to prepare, like those feelings came back immediately. Like it's such an intense, like you said, experience. It's like it's like some sort of drug, and it's like I'm living. I feel for the first time like I am living through this person's eyes, through Punpun's eyes.
Well, I think this is like the most realistic depiction, like of like just everyday life that I've read so far. You know, when you read like slice of life anime and manga, like there's hints of like absurdity and like obviously in this too, but like some of the moments I'm just like, this is real life that we're experiencing. That's why it feels so like intense, because it's just these are people. Yeah,
I mean it's super real, and like the symbolism and stuff, things that we were looking deeper into as we were gearing up to do this. Like, I mean, this is like it's so corny and cheesy to say, but this is like art to me. This is like something that you don't show to everybody, but you show it to somebody who's A, emotionally prepared to deal with it, and B, who really wants to experience something like that. I don't think you can really I don't know. I don't think you can experience this reading much else.
Yeah, we can go more into this in the final thoughts.
Yeah,
section.
I mean, let's just kind of go through some of our favorite moments. We meet Sachi, and I have my favorite moments highlighted here. So I'll skim through things that to me didn't really stand out. And not to say that they didn't stand out, but I mean, there are things that are just crazier that I think
because where the story picks up is it's just Punpun just gets more and more negative, and he gets like another form. He unlocks forms.
Yeah.
We saw the triangle form in the first half that we read.
I think forms are just like his like it's dependent on like his mood and like where he's at in his life at that point, because I know he was like a triangle for a little bit, and then he turns back into a bird, and then he'll turn back into
like a mask guy.
And
I think that was like his like I'm a clown.
Yeah, I think that was his horny demon. You know?
Yes, horny demon. But he takes all these forms that are pretty funny too, and because he can, because he's a bird.
Well, I mean, I think it's true what you said in the last episode, that the triangle is just like it's the farthest from any sort of recognizable form that he has. I think that's when he maybe feels the most like detached from reality.
I think it's Sach when she like keeps showing him like kindness. He like hatches from the pyramid back to being a bird.
Yeah,
and so like that was definitely him. Like I'm done with people.
Yeah, and there's even a panel where a piece of the triangle gets taken out, and it's almost like more of him just keeps getting chipped away, and he becomes even less recognizable. But I did think that was a beautiful moment when he did kind of open up and become hatched. And it came from a moment where Sachi was just telling him like. In their relationship, by the way, I'm hot and cold on it throughout the whole series. Like sometimes I think that they're good for each other, and sometimes I think that they're not really good for each other. Sometimes I think she brings out like the good side of Punpun, but sometimes I think she doesn't know how to talk to him.
No, yeah, because I mean, when you think about like a mentally ill person, you have like everyone knows that he's like not okay. Like going on, they're like, oh, it's just him. Like they know that he's not like the best person, but
he's probably crying.
Yeah, they know this about him. Where I don't think like he understands that people recognize like a sad person or like a depressed person, so she doesn't really know how to deal with that because she's a very like headstrong, like I'm gonna get it done, like let's just get over it, and he's like I'm gonna hold on to the past for my whole fucking life. So it makes sense that she doesn't know how to talk to him, and their relationship is so weird because he's so hot and cold with her.
It felt to me like a take on those indie romance movies where the guy meets the girl and she's like, oh, we have the same thing, we're gonna do it together, you and me, and then it just shows, because it kind of just like what kind of person would be so devoted to just like, because she's like uses that as an excuse to like do stuff or whatever, like I'm helping him, And that's the thing I'm going to do. And everyone's like, why? You met him like at a bar? Why are you doing all this for this guy who just is doing nothing with his life? And she's like, well, because I want to.
And they're like, because you're selfish. And she's like, yeah.
I think helping him helps her in a weird way.
Yeah,
she gets more out of it than he does.
Mm-hmm.
Because he doesn't but also he doesn't do like it's supposed like where I thought the story was gonna be like, oh, they're gonna write a manga together. And he's good at writing maybe? And it turns out no, he's not.
It turns out he's very bad at writing.
No.
And it's not something that he gets like I guess he does get better at, but it's the reason that Sachis manga doesn't get picked up in the first place.
Yeah, and I love that whole moment too when
Yeah.
she's like pitching the manga and you get to see them like living their day-to-day life and you just see like a glimpse of his happiness and you're
Yeah.
like, can I just hold on to these moments?
Yeah.
Like I drew him like the curtain and he's all smiling and I was like, my fucking heart.
I know.
And like I do love Sachi as a character because she really just is like telling him how it is. Like no one has. Like,
Yeah.
they just are like, oh, he's not going to talk. I'm not going to even go there with him. And she's like, you do this, you do this, you do this. Let's just, like, kind of fix that, yeah?
Yeah.
And he, like, tries to, kind of.
Because his friend later on, towards the very end of the series, when he goes missing, tells him that like that's my relationship with Punpun. Punpun disappears. I don't really talk to him. I don't really
Yeah.
ask him about much. But I do think that's why at times I think he and Sachi's relationship that they are good for each other because. Even though she's got this tough love sort of attitude towards him, she calls him out on a lot of his stuff, right? She calls him out on like wallowing in his pity. And
that part that felt like, oh, this is the climax of that hippie movie where it's like, you know what your problem is and blah 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 blah. I'm like, honestly, that didn't hit emotionally for me. It was
really,
because I was like, oh, this is the part in the movie where she goes, and I'm going to explain every single mental aspect of you because I'm written by the person who you're based on, so I can do that. You know,
Yeah.
Those moments always don't land for me.
I mean, yeah, I get that, but at the same time, like, I've had experiences where I'm a person that overshares, and I think a lot of times, yeah. It doesn't sound like me.
Doesn't sound like you.
And I think a lot of times, especially when I was younger, I would overshare, and I would specifically share certain things that I wanted to elicit certain reactions from people, especially women that I was trying to win over
Court.
affection.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I was trying to like win over their affection through like sympathy in a sad way.
I think that's the best way.
It's very sad.
Aw.
I just remember because like I'm pretty open with my mental like states to people,
Yeah.
and like I told her like, yeah, this is where I'm at mentally, and then like later on she goes, I just figured you out, and then she like says all the stuff I told him, like I told you that
Yeah.
you figured me out because I told you
Yeah, I told you everything.
the problems I have and how I feel about them. Then that's how these moments feel like, well, yeah, but like if you know it, like these characters are characters, if they know all these details about if the writer tells them they can, then it just seems
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, like this story like really just showcases like your despair is like your own experience and it makes you unique. Like without those
we are
traumas,
the summary of our scars.
Yes, yes, exactly. So like that's why it's like, oh, you went through this. Oh, well, I went through this, and it like makes our human experience individual.
Well, yeah, the reason I connected with that moment though is because like again to go back to that, like again, as sad as it is, the reason that somebody in that position I feel like unloads that way and overshares that way for sympathy is because like their self-worth is so low. At least in my case, right? I was doing it almost as a way to like this person has to stay with me out of like guilt.
Yeah.
It's a way of trapping somebody. But when you zoom out and you look at it for what it is, it's an ugly thing. It's like a very ugly thing.
Not even if you zoom out.
right.
If you're just
You can pinch.
zoom 1.0,
You can pinch.
But I think your intentions in that
if
moment.
you can do anything, zoom in, zoom out, kind of pan to the side a little.
Right.
You can crop it out. You can add
Overlay.
overlays, add a little GIF on top of it.
You can put a filter on it.
Yeah.
Either way, you're gonna see it. You
Right.
can put it in a framed museum.
Yeah.
You could develop it.
Yeah.
You could put it in a scrapbook.
No,
You could
no,
send
no.
it to your family as a postcard. Any other way you look at it, it's not it's not cute.
It's not cute. It's
not a
definitely-
cute look.
It's definitely not cute. But I think at the time, it comes from a place where you're like, this person won't want to be with me for any other reason. So I have to like figure out a way to essentially keep them around. And that's, I only say that to say that's why I connected with that moment. Like, I get why you didn't connect with it, but like to have some, and it's not always the right way to go about it, to like call someone out for their depression or for being sad. It doesn't always work.
I don't know in what case that, I mean, I thought that the point, like, I don't think they're, in a weird, I do think they are like good for each other in the sense that they wouldn't be good for anyone else.
Yeah.
Well,
I think these are two people that, like, if they were with a healthy person, the relationship wouldn't work out. But because they're both bad in a relationship, it's like, well, I guess this is the only thing.
It's just she's like, I don't want to say calling him out, but like no one's ever told him in any of this ever. And like he does these things because it's like a defense mechanism. He's like, oh, this is going to happen. Well, I'm just going to like go away. And she's like, no, like you can't do that. But she's being selfish because she's like, no, I want you to be with me so that I could just like have you with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's just like, just the guilt between both of them and using that as ammunition for their relationship.
It's almost like being around somebody who she sees as being in a worse place than she is, like makes her feel better about herself.
Yeah. Well,
Which
it's
is
like
a
you want
recurring
to
thing in Punpun.
Yeah, you want like the person that you want to be with, or like people seek out people that need like help, and they're like, I can fix you. Like that's her mentality. Like, we're gonna get through this. Like, you're gonna be better. Like, I'm gonna tell you what to do and you can do it. Puma's like, okay.
What was kind of a bombshell in this moment too, which is another thing I wanted to talk about, was that Punpun does a Uichi. A lot of Punpun 2 is coming full circle. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And
circle of life, huh?
The circle of despair.
Circle of despair, circle of life, circle of his uncle.
He has a Uichi moment when he tells Sachi, because where we left off was where he came into her. He woke up in her apartment. He sees her pubic hair sticking out of her underwear, and he's like, yeah. And so he sees her again, either a couple days later or the next day, and he basically confesses to her everything that he did. And
apparently, that's like a solid move.
Yeah. I need to. Yeah.
First
of all, I don't do things like that to confess, but yeah.
10 straight hours. That's what he said.
Well,
10 straight hours.
It's physically
two
impossible.
for two this move. Well, but two for two of this move of just telling them these awful things. They go like, all right, well, do you want to get dinner or something?
Yeah, at a certain point, you got to go with the odds. Yeah.
Ow, my back.
I mean,
3
we'll
years.
get back to that later.
This isn't
right.
This isn't me, but this isn't about my life. Was that a duck laugh?
But yeah, I think it was crazy that he hadn't masturbated in 3 years. That was a bombshell to me.
Although it makes sense given
100% it makes sense. But I just didn't expect that. Like, that kind of shows how fucked up over everything he really, really was, which is, again, totally warranted. But it was just, it took me by surprise.
Yeah.
And then, is that before? And then he finds out, he goes, like, someone's like, well, you gotta go pick her up after work.
Yeah.
God.
And his the other guy. What was the other guy?
Her ex.
No, I don't think it.
The other guy that was also waiting for her.
Yeah.
The biker looking guy.
Mr. Wada, who is
He's a freak.
He ends up being, because there's a panel later on with the cult, the Good Vibrations cult, and it's like the Last Supper kind of panel, right? And Mr. Wada is the Judas of the 12 disciples, for sure. But that's who's like stalking her outside of her work, which I read wrong initially. I read that their first, like, Sachi and his interaction at first is her like interviewing him for something, but they're just in a break room. Like,
and she's like he's like trying to hit on her or something, and she's like, no. Yeah. And then he waits for her, and then Punpun's like, okay, and then he sees her with this guy that he has no idea about, and then that's when he's just like
that face.
Yeah, you know that any guy knows that feeling, and that's the face.
Oh yeah.
That is the Curb Your Enthusiasm song plays face of like,
yeah.
What, and because his friend was hyping him up like, all you gotta do is show up at work, surprise her. There's chicks like that, and then just being like, what I think was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Why did I think it would be any different this time?
And then he spirals immediately.
Oh yeah,
he's like, oh, no one's ever gonna love me. I can't believe I did that. Fuck her. I want to kill her. Like, I'm so done. And I'm just like, why do you go that fucking far? Jesus.
I mean, it's because like he puts everything he has into these relationships that he has with these women,
or moments.
Yeah.
Where it's like it doesn't take much for him to be happy, but even if a little thing of like, well, what if you pick her up at work and just being like, oh, she
goes
has a
wrong.
boyfriend?
Yeah.
It's just like, fuck everything.
I mean, but I can't say that that's not a foreign feeling.
I'm not
you know?
saying I disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
Quite the contrary, in fact. As I wanted to confer with you.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
No, it's a very that's I think that's sort of the point, is just like showing that, like, and showing the voices is like that. Yeah, that's how it feels for sure. Where you're like, I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and yeah, it does. Obviously, it doesn't go to that extreme, but it goes pretty far. You know. But that was a moment that I'm glad didn't last too long. Like Sachi ends up telling him that was her ex-husband.
Which, as I was reading that, she was like, "Oh, that's my ex. There's nothing to worry about." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, never the case. I have found.
Never the case.
Anytime someone tells you that, you'll believe it.
Hey,
here's always wrong.
Here's a little tip for everybody: always worry about their ex.
Yeah.
Always.
If they're still talking to them, go. You know what? Go ahead, take the loss, and move on with your life.
Don't even ask any questions. Just leave.
They'll tell you it's
know?
nothing, and you'll be like, and they'll be like, yeah, and he's a loser anyway. You're like, yeah, totally. And then. And you're like, oh, you guys have been hanging out a lot lately?
Yeah, it's so funny.
I just talk to him every day to see how sad he is.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, his life is so sad. Oh my God. And then cut to, a month later and they're getting married.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
All the time.
But I like how it didn't linger too much. I like how it wasn't this, like, chapters and chapters and chapters of Punpun thinking that, like, who is this guy? And oh my God, blah, 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 blah.
That was so intentional, too, because Sachi's like, I'm going to tell, like, she'll tell him whatever she's, like, a feeling, or like, no, that's not the case. It's just my ex-husband. Like, I didn't tell you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, she can explain things and Punpun can't even ask?
Yeah.
Like, that is who she is. Like, she tells him how it is, or like, it's just her character, and it made sense that it was, like, ended.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
And I think, like, during that whole, I'm gonna call it the indie dressing down that she gave him, he gave her some stuff back.
Oh, yeah.
And then the reveal that she had, like, plastic surgery, and she
right.
Oh, yeah.
because he is like, well, you're a cute, talented, attractive girl. Like, you're not gonna have a lot of these problems.
And she's like, this base costs
Yeah.
more than your life.
Well, I
now,
paid
doesn't
money
it?
for this, which doesn't undo the fact that you are now a cute, attractive girl.
Yeah, but I mean, she, I guess, has that, she sees herself as she was and not how she is.
And her experience was how she was and not
True.
necessarily how she is.
Yeah.
And aren't we
And that's
all,
what built
we
you.
are all the experiences we've had.
So philosophical today.
Wow.
But yeah, that was a...
Philosophicody.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, I think it's important to think that she is like the most like facially attractive person in this manga, because a lot of people are like cartoonishly drawn too.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, that's because she had surgery done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes sense why... I don't think Punpun would have recognized her anyway, but it makes sense why nobody, Seki or Punpun, recognizes her from being the girl that was at the warehouse or at the miso factory when they were kids. Like I said, they probably wouldn't have remembered her anyway because they were so young.
Yeah.
But I guess
they do. Yeah, and he's like, I might fall in love with you if I keep hanging out with you. Which,
she's like,
yeah,
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
And that's when you get the guitar.
Why don't you then?
It was a very like CW soap opera.
Yeah, she was like,
yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe things are working out.
I know.
Yeah, I do like at this point in the story. Do it again.
That's how it felt reading this.
At this point in the story, I do love them. Like, I love them as a couple, and I'm
or
rooting
even
for
as
them.
like friends. Like, he just fucking needs a fucking friend.
I know.
God damn.
I mean, he has his like weird coworker guy that he's like oddly attached to for some reason. Who, like, where did that guy come from?
I don't know.
But I guess he's a nice guy, and he becomes like he becomes a good friend by the end of the series.
Yeah.
But some other things, I mean, skimming through sort of, they fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he gets all like fucked up again, and he's like in the corner, and he's like,
that was when they do hook up. I thought it was like the big thing because he like flashes back to all these like moments in his childhood.
he's
and, like,
fucked up.
I thought it was him like letting go.
No.
See, that's what I thought. It was him being finally being like,
no.
Maybe it is dumb to still care about a girl I knew in middle school.
But he flashes back to Midori too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like not good.
No, not good at all. But he's like, the kiss. She's like, "Where's my kiss at? Where my kiss at?"
Yeah.
And he just goes,
Yeah.
Aiko, I miss you.
Yeah, that's what I was like, come on, dude, you have to be over this by now.
No, he's holding on for dear life of his past trauma because that's literally all he has and ever had.
Well, I think like they say, and again, I'm not an expert, but they say when people were like physically and sexually abused. Okay. Very funny.
Got him.
They say that when people are like sexually abused, that a lot of times like, and again, I can't remember exactly where I heard this, but that they don't sometimes they don't. Their development sort of is like hindered when it comes to certain things, like when it comes to like sexual experiences, obviously, or when it comes to, I just think that like for him to kind of like,
no, I get it. She represents the innocence of his childhood.
Well, yeah, for him to latch onto that and makes sense for him.
Yeah, I get why he's doing it, but still, like, come on.
But still, you're being a real Sachi right now, dude.
Is he the cool? No, okay.
No, she's the hot one. You're being real hot right
Seki. I was thinking
Seki,
of Seki.
yeah.
I do the more the series goes on too, I'm like, Seki is Cody.
Honestly, that guy was like, it seemed like Punpun was like the dark like fantasy world, and then Seki was where it's like everything's so exaggerated and taken out, and then like Seki was just like the guy who's like, yeah, middle school is fine, I got this job, it's whatever.
Yeah.
That just seemed like the real.
Seki dates my favorite, right? That's what we're talking about?
No.
Seki's which one?
Seki is his friend who is best friends with Shim.
Yes, okay.
Guy?
Yes. Love them.
Yeah. And he kind of goes through his little. I think he's actually a very big part of this story. I think more so than a lot of characters who I thought were going to stand out more. And he became
like who? Like the uncle and
yeah.
I mean, for sure, the Uichi kind of disappears.
He's not, which makes sense. I mean, it's not like
all he does is cry.
It's not like he'd be like, so did you want to have dinner with my wife who you had sex with?
And
we all know.
And I'm fully aware of.
And we all know, yeah.
And I sort of just accepted that. So it's like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, you don't have to come.
You don't have to go.
We're cool, but we're not going to have Thanksgiving or something.
I mean, yeah, it makes
sense.
No,
I love Seki, though. I thought he was, because like with Punpun, it just like becomes more and more of like watching this person. But with Seki, I was able to like at least empathize with.
Yeah, and Seki's also trying to really figure out why people do the things that they do. He's on sort of his own philosophical journey where he's like, what is the meaning of life? He's his reason for working as a junk collector, because he gets to take books and magazines that people read. Like, he wants to read what the people are reading to understand how they think or why they are the way they are. And it's like, he's on his own quest.
He goes through like two girlfriends, right?
One.
Or were they the same? And then she starts smoking and he's like, yeah, I don't like that. And you cheat on me. And I'm not going to do this.
But
and she's like,
yeah, I like that. He was like, well, I mean, I can smell the smoke.
These are the facts.
How many guys have been here since I've been? She's like,
I've been lonely. You don't talk to me.
Yeah, that was classic.
But he also does it in a way where it's like he's known about it for a long time.
Yeah.
And he just really doesn't fucking care.
Yeah, he's like,
I think, I think he's just kind of like, I don't know why actually he's with her, but she is the boss's daughter that he works for. But I also like for him to not really give a shit about her. Like, I don't even know why he's with her in the first place. I mean, I guess everybody needs some companionship.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
That's interesting that you're completely unaware with someone being with someone that doesn't necessarily make them happy. That I mean, I guess maybe you might need to put research into that. I guess
you need to become an expert.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I need to do some soul searching.
I guess if only you've done that at all, even once in your life.
Yeah. Maybe they're memories that I've chose to delete from the database. Yeah, his story got more interesting too, especially with the button pushing that we'll get to at the very end. But after they have sex, another thing that Sachi and Punpun have sex, another thing, their relationship they became kind of like, they never started dating ever. Really. They sort of became like not even friends with benefits, but I guess that, you know, they're like,
yeah, it's I understood this relationship. Yeah, it was like we're not dating, but we do tell each other we love each other, and we do everything together.
And I do get that too. I do. I've experienced this. But also, like you said, Cody, their manga gets rejected because of Punpun's writing.
Yeah, and I loved all that because literally they're just talking about.
They're just talking about
Yasumi Punpun.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I really can't see the story being anything more than some emo kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Punpun. And it's like she's literally explaining the nuances of this story, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it's a really meta moment, and it's also like for Punpun, it's a meta moment too because it's about even in story, it's about his life.
About him.
So it's like it's not only it's my writing, this is my life, and you're saying it's shit.
It's depressing,
Yeah.
and it's not going to go anywhere.
Garbage, and he sucks, and I hate him. And
He's kind of ugly too. I don't know.
Yeah.
He needs to work on
Punpun's
himself.
just like,
Yeah, dude, he's
like,
he spirals after that moment. And look, man, I get it. I get it. But I think what's interesting that happens after that is we find out a little bit more about Seki and Shimizu.
yeah.
And we find, because like Seki's at a job site and he tells his coworkers that he gives them this like, what do you call those questions where they're like these ethical questions? Not hypothetical. I feel like there's a term for like when you ask someone like a
Rhetorical.
would you rather, not rhetorical, like a would you rather, but it's an ethical would you rather. Like what would you do if you could choose
Moral,
a moral conundrum?
Moral kaniki.
Right. Yeah, sure. I'm going to cut that part out. But basically he asks like, what would you do if, you know, a truck is coming to hit your friend and your friend's mom? Like, who do you save? And, I mean, you find out that that's what happened, that Shimizu this whole time, he seems like that kid from It whose mom is always like, take your inhaler with you, take your meds with you. But in this, we find out that she's not even there. She's been dead.
And her just arm like on the hallway. She's like, bye, have a good day. And he's just like.
It immediately became super ominous. It was like a sweet thing in the beginning. I was like, oh, his mom's like pretty cool. And then it became like that arm.
Scary.
That disjointed. It became like this like phantom limb. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah. But it became this thing that like was eerie every time I would see it. It became like a scary thing at a certain point. And I felt bad for him. I felt really bad for him because he's the kid that sees the poop god and all this, like why he's retreated into his like psyche kind of makes a little more sense. Why he's such a fucking weird ass kid.
He's stunted. He's a stunted kid. He does not develop past being like a child, really.
A lot of people in this don't.
Yeah. So he holds on to that, and Seki's like the opposite. He's like trying to grow, and like he was forced to like grow up kind of as a kid to deal with all the shit that he was going through. So them together, like he's trying to get him past that, and he even mentions his mom, and he's like, what the fuck, like get over it, like she's fucking dead, like she's dead, stop. And then he's like, gotta go. And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah,
they're like best friends.
He
but
prides himself on being like a realist, I think.
Yeah.
You know? And their relationship, I think, gets more and more complicated. There's a question I have about how their story kind of comes to an end that I really don't have the answer to, and I'm curious to see if you guys have an answer. But after that, another thing that I highlighted was, first of all, Shimizu gets recruited to this cult again because Seki goes to clean out the building and all that. But we're getting to, like, again, a pivotal moment in the story for me, which probably was shockingly and surprisingly one of the most heartbreaking moments. I don't know why, but it was when Mr. Shishido,
yeah. And this is like during the time where what's his name? Not Gesumi's boyfriend? The other guy?
Yeah. I forget his name,
but he's so funny and he's so cool, and he's just like telling Punpun like, we should do this more often, like every year, let's go, like let's be friends.
He's just kind of like a guy, like, you know what I mean? Like he seems like what an author would depict as just like one of the guys.
Yeah, but he's just like so nice, and like he's just telling Punpun like, let's hang out, and Punpun's like, what do you mean hang out? Have friends? What is this? He's like, yeah. And they're all like together having a nice fucking little trip.
Yeah.
And then he fucking walks out and he has a thing that he wanted to buy for someone, and he forgot that he didn't pay for it, and then
well, yeah, he was like
it
looking.
gets really crazy.
Yeah.
He was looking for them. He's like, "Hey, where'd you go? Hey,
Yeah.
what?" And then the was like, "Did you steal that?" And he's like, "What? No,
It's fucking Karen,
It's fucking Karen,
bitch
dude.
ass Karen.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was a cross-eyed Karen.
She was a cross-eyed Karen, and I wish that she got smacked again. I would
Yeah.
have been there to smack the shit out of her.
Also, because like this is the part. Yeah,
Sorry.
I wish
I
you
was
would have
so
been there.
I was so fucking
No,
mad
me
at her.
too, dude.
I was like, you are the worst type of person because he's literally trying to explain to you what the fucking situation was, and you're not listening to him, and you just you want to be the victim. Like,
And it's like, what do you gain from this? I was like,
And the whole time too, like we've learned that he's just like this kind person who at times is almost too kind. That his kindness ends up getting him in trouble. So it's not like he's the last person that would be shoplifting.
but
Yeah,
he
and
shouldn't
then
have
just-
stalked her.
well, she
Well, I
like
mean,
she was
no.
like grabbing at him, so he like smacked. Like I think that's perfectly fair.
Yeah.
She's like, "Where's like you show me your where's your ID? Where's this?" And he's like,
Well, no, I took it as she started because I think she said that she wasn't even talking about the cats. At a certain point, he's like, "What do you mean this?" And she's like, "No, not that. You have something in your pocket."
"No." It's
And
like,
she,
"What else did you steal?"
And she, okay, maybe it was a what else did you steal? But she starts reaching into his back pocket where I'm assuming maybe his wallet would be. And I think he started to think like, "Oh, I'm getting robbed right now. Like
Yeah.
I'm not even. This is like a
That is
con.
that would be that's a very cool robbery. What'd you steal? Let me. Where's your wallet? Here.
Yeah.
Ah, you probably stole this too.
Yeah. No, I think she might have been trying to like rob. I don't know what this Karen's problem was, but
Yeah, she was on one.
that's when we're kind of learning about the black mark or what the black
The
mark
dark
is.
spot.
And yeah.
And the guy gets like tackled by an employee.
I
And then the
know.
guy's like, "Dude, sweet tackle. Yeah, I used to play rugby."
Yeah,
and it's just
dude.
an old man bleeding on the ground now.
Yeah, dude.
I know.
And he gets like, man.
he gets hospitalized.
He gets paralyzed.
He gets paralyzed.
It was such a. I didn't expect. Out of all the things that happen in Punpun, out of all the fucked up shit that happens, like I didn't expect that moment to hit me the way it hit me. I was
Because
like,
he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't
No.
deserve it. Like,
And
he's the one character who doesn't deserve anything to happen to him.
When they talk about it, they're like, "Well, I mean, she didn't actually like do this, so we can't go after her for it." And the employee thought you were shoplifting, so like, there's just like, yeah, there's nothing we can do,
yeah,
and we don't even know who she was, so you can't even.
Yeah, and then she just leaves, and then you kind of see her go down the escalator with that other motorcycle guy, I think.
Mr. Wada.
Yeah, Mr. Wada. And you're like, what is the parallels between
I mean,
Mr.
I'm telling you, man. I
What a
need
person.
people in the comments to let me know more about the
Oh, no,
good
it's Pegasus.
vibrations. She goes down the. Well, Pegasus breaks into her house later.
Yeah, and then tries to fucking kill her.
I don't know if he. Well, he was. I think he was under the impression because he has a moment of crisis where he's trying to find out, what the black mark is, or who, if it is a person, if it is a thing that transfers from person to person, or if it is all people. And he sort of has this like, breakdown. But
Yeah.
he was going to her house to kill her because he thought she was.
Well,
But I
then
need-
you
I
see
need-
Mr. What's his name?
Yeah.
Wada.
Wada.
He's like, why didn't you do it? You're supposed
Yeah.
to commit. And he's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So he was going to fucking kill them. And then he was like, no, this is not right. Maybe.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, I do feel like, again, there is a lot more significance with the Good Vibration cult than I was able to pick up on. Like, I know on the surface level, amount, but I don't know much deeper.
It's a song.
Well, I know
well,
that.
I found,
Yeah,
no,
that's what I
actually, like,
figured.
he's,
It's like a band or
he
something.
said
For not
that,
knowing songs, I do know that song.
he said that in an interview that all of it's canon. Like, them dying at the end saved the world.
Right.
Like, that actually happened.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like they're just crazy and they killed themselves for no reason. Like, that's what saved the world from fucking. I thought it was fake. I was like, no, this is not. They just are fucking crazy people.
No, I mean, I did feel like there was something up, and I think that there was.
I thought it was just a showcase.
Especially
of-
because it could have been a coincidence, I guess, too. But especially because of the meteor shower that happened that same.
And the meteor showers were of the godheads.
Well, yeah.
So I thought that whole cult was supposed to parallel Punpun, and then the death of the cult happens around when Punpun has officially gone off the deep end. So I thought it was like how he goes through modes of like clearly like just trying to act like he's happy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And which that whole cult is like devoted to. It was just like, we're gonna good vibe, we're gonna do it, and they die around the same time where he's like, I'm
Yeah.
Yeah, and that shit's crazy too because they're like, let's drink the Kool-Aid. Like they're like, everyone passes the Kool-Aid, and the girl's like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have friends. She's like, I'm scared too, and they're like, it's fine, just do it. And then if they don't fucking do it, they're still gonna burn to fucking death.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's again because Mr. Wada is the puppet master. He's pulling some strings.
Yes.
He's the Judas of everything, and he's trying to, in a weird way, do what he thinks is right for humanity and the world.
Yeah.
And I guess he was right. So the moral.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
Seki
Let's not linger there.
Seki sees the fire and then goes to save him, and then they're fine. I was like, she was dead.
I thought Seki went full like superhero vigilante.
He really did.
He gets beat up by his ex's like dad's friends.
His goons.
Yeah, because she's like, he fucking hit me. Like,
she
that
said
is
that, yeah.
horrible to blame
Yeah.
people for stupid shit like that. I
Yeah.
cannot forgive you if you do that. Sorry.
No, I mean, that's
It's the
terrible,
worst
especially
thing.
in a world where
That's possible?
well, in a world where like, I mean, it's happening so often where people are coming forward with
Allegations and
experiences and allegations,
yeah.
and you're discrediting them. Like, you know what I mean? You're taking away from their truths by like
lying that it
And
happened.
it's this weird thing of like corrupting because like if he did hit her, I wouldn't be against the dad being like,
No.
we're gonna go fuck that guy
No.
up.
Right.
So it's
No,
this
of
weird
course.
thing of like corrupting like a sense of justice
yeah.
because now it's like, well, now they don't know that they beat up an innocent person.
Yeah, they have no fucking clue. I mean, but also they don't like. I think they say too at one point they're like, I don't really want it. I mean, this is just part of the job, you know. Like they're not beating him up because they give a fuck that he did any of that shit. I think they have a line of dialogue where they're like, Seki, you know, we like you and everything, but like the boss has to keep face, you know. I think this is exactly what they say. But before that too,
Yeah,
Punpun's 2-year deadline is up, and speaking of dying, Punpun dies, and Taka
Yeah.
comes onto the scene.
Just sort of, he just decides to just pretend to be someone else.
His neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when I started getting confused by what was even happening.
He went full psycho.
Well, the way I read it or interpreted it was that he was in his apartment at his lowest low. His 2-year deadline is up. He's contemplating ending his life, but I don't think he really has, you know, the courage, I think, to do it, which is a weird word to say there. But I don't think he could bring himself to do it. That's a better way to say it. Yeah. It's not a courageous thing.
Yes, there you go.
But he hears his neighbor having sex again, and he starts fantasizing about what that dude's life must be like because he's fucking killing it. He's
killing it.
I mean, he has a girlfriend.
He's killing the game.
He has multiple girlfriends, apparently. Yeah, he goes out and
killing
hangs
it,
out with
killing
his
it.
friends. And then all of a sudden, he starts like masturbating to them having sex.
Yeah,
And then
not uncommon for Punpun to do
Not
it
uncommon.
all.
Okay, good. I thought you were gonna say that's not uncommon for people. To do.
Oh no, that's a thing. For
yeah,
sure.
I've heard a lot of people. I've heard a lot of stories. About
Yeah, I've heard a lot of fucked up things. Anyway,
Secondhand.
yeah, no, secondhand experiences,
Okay.
secondhand
Yeah,
experiences. Yeah, from other people, not.
But he realizes it's way easier to fake being another person than it is to actually be himself. Like, again, which is a relatable thing.
That's
It's
why I'm an
easy-
actor.
Yeah. It's so easy to know like what the right thing. I know what the right thing to say is, but that's not how I feel. But people aren't going to respond well to how I feel, so I'm going to say what the correct thing, what Taka would say, and that's where he just like loses himself and becomes this other person.
When he starts just forming complete sentences and actually speaking like a fucking human. I was like so shook when okay, well, I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but this is where I wrote, oh, now we're all fucked. Oh my God. And that's when he meets
Aiko. Yeah.
Aiko again. And I was like, fuck this bitch.
Yeah.
I hate her, but like, she's just a fucking ugh.
Yeah, out loud when he tells the girl at his driving school that his name is Taka, like, call me Taka or whatever. I was like, Punpun, no. This is where I felt like a dad like watching his son, and I was like, Punpun, no, dude.
Stop.
Yeah, no, that's cringe, bro.
That's
Okay.
cringe.
All
It's like
right.
catfishing in real life.
That's where like he just lied about his name to that person.
And life.
Yeah, and like, but he told that to Aiko too.
Yeah.
And she lied to him too, which
But no,
that was such a crazy reveal.
yeah.
That was such a crazy reveal. So good.
because he's like, yeah, I play rugby, and I definitely have I have a girlfriend, and we're super chill with each other. And
Yeah,
she's like,
dude.
yeah, I'm like a model, and I'm dating this older guy, and he's like
Yeah.
super mature.
Well, the thing is, like, she's like, oh, you haven't changed at all. And I was like, that's a bad thing to say to someone. Because, like, there's, like, good parts of things that you shouldn't change, but you should change.
Yeah.
Like, you should grow as a person and not stay the same. People that stay the same are, like, it's...
Well, that's what...
Yeah, I my creed, which is you should be disgusted by who you were a year ago.
I love that Creed. I love it more than the band Creed.
Cream?
Creed.
Yeah, he loves it more than Cream.
I love it more than the movie Creed.
Cream is a band, too.
Cookies and cream. But he also...
This is dumb.
So dumb.
He's like a super dramatic moment.
I know. He also... It's when I start to feel like it's a lie because she says that he hasn't changed, but clearly he's changed so much. Clearly, this version of himself is a lie.
Yeah.
Way different.
He's also
Yeah.
pretending to be a completely different person.
Yeah.
So like you haven't changed a bit. It's like that is not who he was. And
Yeah, exactly. That's when I was like, that's a bold-faced lie. Again, that's when like she's saying the right thing. or the
Exactly.
cute thing
Oh
to
my
say
god, you
is.
haven't changed at all since
Yeah.
middle school.
But I believed
that
fully.
is interesting. Like, what would it take to be like, you've changed a lot. So you only say that to losers, right?
I mean, when you think about it,
I mean, because if you were a cool person, you say like you've changed. That's a bad thing.
maybe you got cool.
But like if you're the same
Maybe
as
you got cooler.
if you're the same as you were in middle school, I mean, if someone says that just means I didn't really know you that much. But like on the surface, you seem about the same, so you haven't changed at
it's
all.
also kind of a diss. When you unpack it, it's a diss.
If they, you can mean it as a diss if there was like you haven't changed a lot, but like. I feel like people only say it to someone they kind of knew.
It's like a how's the weather thing.
Yeah, you haven't changed at all from when I sat next to you, and
Yeah.
but like the positive is like if you were like a loser and now you're like, man, you've changed.
Right, because you've changed has a negative connotation. Like Cody, you've changed.
You've changed, bro.
Yeah. But change is good.
Change brings only
The winds of change
The winds of change
are a blowing,
are a blowing.
Oh god.
just like Punpun's life.
I fully believed Aiko, by the way.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. That's why I was like, what?
It made sense to me that she would go off and live this because again, like, I mean, we did not know we knew she, her family was into this cult, but we didn't know to what extent. So I believed that maybe she had a weird family, but that she was able to leave and she was able to accomplish all these things. And it made sense to me that she would do that because it would kind of contrast Punpun's like misery and the one girl that he loves would be successful. Like it made sense for him for his life to work that way.
Yeah.
And then, so I believe she had a boyfriend too, which made this whole interaction that they had at a motel.
Guess he's like, you want to hang out? She's like, yeah. Or you want to go to a motel? She's like, yeah.
Yeah. And then I started thinking like, okay.
What is we doing?
Yeah, that was a big thing because I thought it was going to be some sort of internal turmoil of like, oh, here's this life I'm starting to establish, and then a thing into my own. He's like, no, I'm gonna have sex with her.
Yeah. No, there's no other direction. He's like, nope.
Yeah.
This is the way.
Because he says he has a girlfriend too.
Yeah.
Yeah, which he, I guess, kind of does.
I mean, I guess. But yeah, dude, that whole interaction was fucking weird, man. I mean, down to the way it's like it's drawn in a way that's just like, oh my god! Like,
I just said I shouldn't have watched this. I was like, I don't want to see this.
like I'm in the reading it in the way it's drawn. Like I'm in the corner of the room, just like covering my eyes. You know?
Yeah, like as a father watching their son have sex with their ex from middle school.
Yeah. I was like, I don't need to see this. This is I shouldn't
like,
have
you're
seen.
written
I shouldn't have
buddy.
seen. I shouldn't have seen that.
Raised you better than this, my son.
I think
That's when it you fully is like, oh, Punpun's like he's a shit person.
yeah, dude, he's really used his kind of pain and his trauma
To
as an
justify just like,
to
well, now
justify
it's my turn to
Yeah.
be a dick.
Yeah.
to be a fucking asshole.
Yeah, and this is like after they do it after they like reveal that like, oh, I wasn't actually what I said I thought I was gonna.
They do
What
it
I
before.
told.
This happens before.
I said before, right?
No, you said after.
Oh, before.
Yeah. This happens before, man, and it even goes to a point where Aiko's like, stop, and Punpun
Yeah,
doesn't
she says like,
immediately
yes,
stop.
I know.
Yeah, she has to say it, I think 4 or 5 times.
And then
I was like, you fucking
Yeah.
bitch.
Yeah, and that's like you said, he's using his pain and trauma to justify like, well, everybody treated me like shit and I never fucking got mine, so I'm gonna fucking I'm Taka now.
And he's like, I want to ruin your life.
That's
Yeah,
what he
dude.
says. And even she's just like, yeah, you've been fucking miserable. I've been miserable too. And you go into her fucking life and that shit's miserable.
Oh my god.
That shit's miserable.
Which I thought was like, okay, now here's the big thing of a positive turn of events.
Nope, this is the
Because
dark spot.
He essentially gets him out. I thought he got an out when like the girl he was like not dating but dating, which he's just like she's like, I'm pregnant. He's like, was it with your ex? And she's like, yeah. Yeah, it's just
Shocker.
Wow. Who would have guessed?
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Just if there's any takeaway, just
Yeah.
if they ever say it's not an issue, it's absolutely an issue. And he knew that too. He's like, yeah, so you had sex with your ex? She's like, well, of course.
Well, because I think it happened
Because you weren't around.
I maybe didn't linger on it too much. I can't remember when it
I
happened.
love that
but-
answer of like, well, because you weren't around, which is literally, well, you weren't there,
Yeah.
so I might as well just.
Yeah, you weren't there for me. So
I figured out what just.
this was the best option.
So I'm pregnant now.
So you're not mad at me because you weren't there, and
It's
it's your fault. It's your fault.
Yeah, I can't.
Very
I have it written
Gaslight.
down, but I don't know exactly where it happened.
They had that
chronologically,
very
but
sad thing where she's like, well, I guess we weren't like dating. So like, if I get an abortion, you want to just like stay together? And Punpun's like, yeah, maybe.
also like, do you want to go with me? And then he has.
Do you want to go with me to our abortion? I guess is our first official date.
And there's this moment too where he has like two roads that he can go down.
Yeah.
One is with Sachi and one is with Aiko, and she's waiting for him by
parallels
yeah.
again.
And the same panel, the
Yeah.
same 2 full page spreads of.
I'll go
That
ahead and,
turn.
and
Okay, but,
say he picked wrong.
Okay, he picked
yeah.
wrong, yes, but she was also fucking her ex-husband. So like,
But they weren't.
She should.
They weren't together.
Sure, but
When did it happen?
It happened when Punpun was off being Taka.
Off being Taka fucking Aiko.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess.
Well,
I
they-
guess.
they
They're
did-
both-
He's not a saint in
No,
any of
no,
this.
no,
either.
no,
no, they
no.
didn't have sex, but she did have sex with her ex. So him and Aiko didn't have sex.
No, they did.
No, not
at
yet.
this point, they hadn't had sex, but he all but tried.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tried
She was
really
like, nah.
hard.
Yeah.
Too hard, if anything.
No, like it would have been better to be with the girl, even though she cheated on him.
No, of course.
But,
Sachi was
like,
the definite root.
in the sense that like the path with Aiko couldn't get much worse.
Worse.
So at least that would have been better, and eventually they break up after like a year.
Oh, God.
I mean, he made the wrong choice for sure.
But not to say the right choice was good. Just
Exactly.
between those two, I think that would have been a little better.
Well, it's just like I think another character says. Sometimes both options are wrong. Sometimes both options are right. There's never a.
Yeah.
There's never a
Was
right
that
or
when they
wrong.
were talking about our elections?
Oh, stop touching the mic stand.
So Aiko and fucking Punpun are like, let's run away together, and they're like, okay,
Yeah,
That's when I thought like, oh, this will be nice.
sure, I'm gonna run away together.
Because
with
honestly,
you.
good. I mean, that relationship, you both were just at least trying to cheat on each other. You tried, she did.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I would call that cheating on him because
She had sex with her
they
ex-husband.
weren't together though. They established that they were friends with benefits, and Punpun was off doing his own fuck before.
Okay, I guess
because
it's
you
not-
want to say he didn't fuck Aiko, but he fucked that other girl. He fucked the other girl from the driver's ed class.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So I mean, it's not, they're off.
I
Doing
he
their
was
own
like
thing.
having a relationship with her, pretty much.
It was
like,
a
they would like hang
relationship.
out. Yeah.
And
Not-
they both were aware that they were not exclusive to each other.
I guess. Yeah, I guess.
I mean,
No,
for
it is.
real,
It's true.
I
It's true.
calls
It's
it like he
true.
sees it.
He calls it like he sees it. Josh sees it.
Yeah. Until you get the confirmation, it's open season. Until it's like written in paper.
Sometimes I wish it wasn't that way, but you have to,
Anyway,
I'm just saying they were both aware of what the other person was
No,
doing.
they weren't
Situation.
aware. They found out.
But I think it was like, again, it was unspoken, and I think they both they didn't have a moment where they were like, we are in a relationship where it's just you and me. Where exclusive in this.
Do you have that conversation?
Yeah, 100%. Because I don't want it to, I said in the last episode, when I was a kid, which it's ridiculous, by the way, that we put so much pressure, on kids to like younger kids in relationships to be perfect, right? Like I
Who
fucked
puts
up.
pressure?
I feel like when you...
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Adults?
Not adults, but I feel like obviously when you're talking to other people that are either your age or a little bit older than you.
Because that's your time.
I guess, but my point is, I know how kind of I was. I know how people who I've been with have been. So I have that conversation. In the last like couple relationships where I was just casually dating somebody, there was a moment where I was like, hey, just so you know, I'm not fucking anybody else. And if you are...
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and if you are, then later.
Right. That was the girl who had she loved hanging out with the boys.
And did she? Was she?
I don't know. I mean, she went to Texas to stay at some dude's house.
When you go to Texas?
I mean, yeah.
When you go to Texas at all, you're getting fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's she loved hanging out with the boys who didn't speak the same language as her.
I think it's very mature.
And I'm just gonna go in a hotel room with this guy.
Yeah, I'm just saying I think it's very mature to clearly define
boundaries.
Boundaries, yes, and boundaries, and to say like we're at a point in our relationship where I am exclusive to you. Are you willing to be, or are you exclusive to me? And it's clear. It's communication. It's
being an adult.
Yeah. So fuck you, Cody.
Sure, but I also don't think it should be that necessary.
Because otherwise, you're gonna go on what? You're gonna go on like
this unsaid rule.
Yes, you're gonna go on like you're gonna assume, and you know what happens when you assume? She gets. I was gonna make a terrible joke.
Do it when he happens when you assume.
Because
she gets.
I was gonna
ass
say yeah.
oomed.
She gets her ass eaten out by another dude.
That's good. That one's better.
Yeah.
This feels like justification for...
It's not justification, but I just want to say, yes, they were doing their own thing, and Punpun didn't really feel he was not very at all sad, because he was like, I have Aiko now. He doesn't give a fuck about her anymore. Everything's been for Aiko. Everything will be forever for Aiko right now. Like, this is what he's been waiting for. This is all his life is built up to. So he doesn't give a fuck. Like, he really doesn't. That's why he didn't choose her.
I mean, I was rooting for that. I mean,
I wasn't
honestly,
rooting for that.
The event.
I wasn't rooting for that.
The event after they're like, all right, we're gonna go. It felt like out of place. Like it felt like, and like just like, how do we make this worse? I did everything, all these like horrible things that have happened. I'm like, okay, there's like a flow to it, but this felt. And now this story is going to happen.
Yeah.
And it just started to feel like bad things arbitrarily happening. I was like. All this. This is the only time I've been like, come on.
Yeah.
This now has to happen too.
And when we mean this.
Yeah. I mean, when we mean this, we realize how
fucked
shitty and how fucked up Aiko's mom and her whole like living situation has been. They go to her house to tell her mom that she's leaving, and
she's wearing her old school uniform. She's like, why the fuck are you wearing that? She's like, don't worry about it.
And closes her laptop like very suspiciously when they walk in. And apparently her mom is crippled because of, I forget why again. Why was she crippled?
Well, that would be the answer, which is
I forget,
but they said she's in the cult because they said that like the water will help her heal her and not be crippled anymore.
And that's kind of how, and she's guilted. She's guilted Aiko. She's guilted Aiko's dad too, and basically made them feel like they have to take care of her. And if they leave, then they're like leaving her to basically just rot because.
Oh yeah, I love that classic mom manipulation.
Yeah.
It's real, and that shit fucks you up.
Yeah.
I am not a stranger to that. I'm not gonna say that my situation was this bad because I wasn't getting beat and shit, but it's like, oh, so you want to do that? Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'll just be here and just be sad because. I mean, I guess that's what you want, right?
You want me to be sad.
You always play the victim. You're always the victim, right? You're always the victim. Well, you paint me as the villain. I'm not the villain in this situation. You think I am? Wow, you really think I am? Oh my God.
And
are you kidding me?
And you're sitting there like, I haven't said anything in the past 20 minutes.
And then you say something and they're like, but you don't really mean that, right?
Yeah.
Because you're lying. You're lying to me. Anyway, I relate heavy to Aiko in this situation. It wasn't that bad, but it's This is fresh. I'm sorry. I just had.
No,
dude,
I mean,
it's a lot right now.
Punpun will do it to you.
It really will. Yes.
Because and then you find out in the worst way that the mother has been faking being crippled this whole time.
Has she been faking?
Yeah. Because she's like able to walk.
Yeah, she gets up and she's like,
I thought she like did like a crazy lunge, but no, she's like standing and walking. She was faking it to like add to the guilt.
I mean,
Which I have heard about some stuff like that happening.
people with money specifically though will do that just to get money from the government. But
like,
she stands up.
Clearly standing.
Yeah, she stands up.
Because I thought. She is standing up.
She lunges and then
Yeah, I thought at first she was like just going like.
Yeah, she's straight up she's standing.
Yeah.
That's why they were completely unprepared for this thing, because it will be like, okay, we'll just go take you from your crippled mom and like let her deal with that.
Yeah.
Well, I think the reason I thought she was for sure crippled is obviously she gives her a guilt trip about like.
She like just straight up punches her in the face, and then Punpun's like, so are we gonna like grab your clothes? Or...
But she also like the way that her legs were drawn is they were drawn like as if they were sort of atrophied.
Well, she's like she's like posing them like that.
She poses them and then she just like drags herself around. Like, what a fucking crazy bitch.
And I'm sure if you did that for a few years, your legs would eventually atrophy naturally, but like they weren't actually crippled.
Yeah, I did not even notice that she's up and walking around. I was so distracted by the actual events of what were happening.
I know.
That I didn't even notice that. But,
I know, same.
But dude, she's super abusive to Aiko. She's
mentally, physically,
all of them. The big three.
The big three.
She's probably the scummiest, most horrible.
She looks Punpun's mom look like a fucking saint. A saint. I was like, I miss her.
Yeah, dude, she is the probably worst person I've ever read about in a series, dude. She's just such an ugly fucking person.
Yeah.
I mean that her soul is just fucking ugly. And she not only tries to stop Aiko from leaving, but she tries to do that by stabbing her.
By killing her. Yeah. She's trying to kill her.
She full on tries to kill both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And she gets Aiko in the stomach.
She does.
And it looks like multiple times. It looks like she's fucking straight up prison shanking her in the stomach.
Dude, she fucks her up for sure.
Punpun dives into the mom to stop her. And she stabs Punpun in the leg with scissors.
Mm-hmm.
Punpun fucking strangles her to the point where he thinks, which is something that is brought up later, he thinks he fucking strangles her to death.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, that seemed fair.
It seemed fair because it's literally self-fucking defense.
Yeah, that's why I didn't understand running away from that.
I don't understand it either. I hate when people do that in real life and in movies. It's like, just fucking call the police.
Like, I mean,
it's the fear of not being believed, though, I think,
But yeah, I mean, you have the child like with stab wounds in her, and you can. I mean, I get like. I understand it's like, well, they weren't thinking too clearly at the time. And like as it goes, but it is like, just seeing that, I'm like, look.
She is mentally not there. As you could tell, she's wearing her daughter's school uniform. We did not put that on her. She was wearing that when we walked in. So yeah, she's fucking crazy.
I think also she has this like cult behind her that I don't know. I think Aiko's been conditioned to believe that her word doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, and Aiko is you find out she is very much a child still.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what Punpun is sort of conditioned to believe too. That I think they're both so fucking damaged that they assume that the world is against them and that no one's going to believe them.
Or no one's good. There's no good people.
Or that no one's good.
Yeah, I get that they believed that. Just I'm reading, I'm like, well, that's self-defense. You would be fine.
But then she goes to stab her a bunch of times. So
maybe
that wasn't the best move, Aiko.
That kind of
fucked everything up.
And that's a good point too, because if they do forensics, then it's like, okay, what the fuck?
Why did you
about?
stab her 16 times after she was already choked to death?
Although if it is done 16 times, that's usually seen as evidence it was a crime of passion. And if you're a child with clear abuse, we don't have to get into this. The point is, I mean,
it seems like that's something you looked into.
Yeah, research.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe move on.
I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that. But Aiko's fucked up. She's like completely like fucked now.
And it's an important thing that happens later on, it will be important later on that someone comes to the door to deliver a package. Punpun goes to the door and then comes back, and Aiko's stabbing her mom, which looks like the way it's framed is that it looks as if Aiko's just doing it out of anger. It doesn't look like she's killing her mom. It looks like her mom is already dead because of Punpun, and she's just like so angry and still full of so much rage that she's just taking it out on her after the fact.
Well, maybe she wasn't dead, and maybe he just strangled her until she passed out or something.
Yeah, that's what I think.
No, that's for sure what happened. But
yeah,
but I mean,
but the way it looks now.
Yeah, in the moment, I for sure thought Punpun killed her, 100%.
Yeah,
and I thought Aiko was just so angry that she was just like taking it out on her. But we find out later that that's not true at all. This is when obviously the story goes in a completely different, darker direction.
This is like was the entire thing here to get you to understand why these two people would do this and live this, because I honestly was like, this seemed completely out of nowhere, and like I give this felt like unnaturally like, let's just have the story go even darker to me.
I guess I can see where you would get that. I did kind of believe it for them, but it did feel like, oh, we're taking a hard turn now. Like you were saying, it didn't feel like everything else felt like maybe a natural progression to this point, but this did feel like a fucking swerve.
Yeah.
Well, it was just like another unfortunate circumstance, like another thing that just happened. He didn't really have control over, and he tried to do the right thing, and then it just got fucked up, and he didn't know how to deal with it, and he didn't really care because he's with Aiko now. So it's just like these things that happen to him throughout the story that he deals with, and this is like, oh, that's a thing that can really actually fuck up your life, versus like, oh, she didn't come with me to my date, I feel like I'm gonna die. And it's like, oh, you committed a murder, and you're running away from the crime scene, and you're gonna go run away. This is an actual significant thing that like people
which is
get in trouble for.
I know someone who like ended up going to jail because they just kept doing these like little things, and they went to jail for like, I think they just got out. But like I went to high school, they were like the house over next to me. It was in the news.
Yeah, little things like what?
Because it started as like this small scam you can do to like get a couple $100 that I may have done a few times.
Incriminating.
Yeah, I said may have. Actually, I don't do anything. I just play video games.
Right.
But so they like did this thing, and it like just kept. They like met. They were like, it was pretty cinematic because like I like, now I'm just back here. I'm like, I guess I'll go to college, and they're like, we're gonna travel the country doing this. They meet a guy who's like, I see you guys are scammers. I'm something of a scammer myself. Takes them under his wing, and they go from like doing this like small scam that just pays rent and stuff, and then it goes on to like, oh, we can also make drugs. We can also counterfeit money. We can also
steps.
Yeah, and then
once you get away with a little, you think you can get away with a lot.
Give a mouse a crack rock.
Give a mouse.
Yes. Yes. That is one of the charges.
Isn't there a cookie called crack cookie?
I'm sure, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. Why don't you go ahead and tell us?
But yeah, this did feel a little like, wow, we're going here, and it kind of did feel like it came a little out of nowhere. I get like, it felt on brand for Aiko to have that sort of horrible life.
I would have really believed it more if Punpun had more to do with like her mom and the family. Like, I don't know. It just felt kind of like this is their first time meeting, and this is what goes down.
We're all worried about meeting our significant's parents, but Punpun went a little crazy, huh, gang?
Yeah, you could call it stab bin laws.
No,
you could.
I was gonna say he really killed it. Huh?
We all hope we do good. But
I hope you don't choke out there.
There you go. Hey yo,
hey boy.
Yeah, man, it's probably the fucking darkest part of this whole story. So dark, and the things to follow even darker.
Oh yeah.
They're on the Lamb road trip. That's what this story becomes.
Well, they bury her body first. And
pretty shallow too.
Yeah, they're not very smart.
Yep. Oh man, and I have to talk about this one panel that again I think fucked me up more than the whole murder thing. It was this one series of events where Aiko, first of all, you realize how incredibly toxic they are. And how they exacerbate each other's toxicity, and how they're just fucking making, like, they say that you found the one when you guys make each other better. They're making each other the worst versions of themselves possible. And Aiko has this like moment where she's like, you shouldn't kill somebody no matter what, which we find out later is probably she's saying that probably out of guilt, but at this point in the story, we think she's blaming Punpun for what happened. She like bites the shit out of Punpun's finger,
yeah.
And Punpun
smacks her.
He doesn't smack her. He punches her in the face so hard that she knocks her tooth out.
And ends up looking like how she did when she was a child.
And then they have that flashback where she was a kid, and that broke me. That was crazy.
Yeah.
That she had that missing tooth when she was a kid, and then now she's an adult with the shit beat out of her, and she's got a tooth. And also because like Punpun was the abuser in that situation.
It was fucked. Yeah.
It was super
full
fucked.
circle.
Yeah, dude. It was super fucked.
Yeah, she's just she's like not having a good time. She's like having crazy dreams and like panic attacks, and like she has a fucking open wound and shit. Like she's not doing good.
Yeah, a lot of the manga becomes them being like, maybe we should go to the hospital. No, we can't. And then she like pees herself, and then they like try to kill each other, and then
that's kind of how it goes on until the end of the story.
That's this manga.
Yeah, dude, this is pretty much the rest of the series.
The series, yeah.
There is a moment too that we learned more about, where they're at this cafeteria or somewhere. They're eating somewhere that looks like a cafeteria, and Aiko stabs or threatens to like gouge Punpun's eye out, and Punpun like allows her to do that, which we find out is because of, what was it again, Megan?
The Daruma doll. It's like I don't know. It's like this little toy in Japan. It has like lore to it, and they paint it with one eye, and then when their like hopes or like dreams are fulfilled, they fill in the other eye, and she is hoping that they would fall in love and like wish that they would fall in love with the star in the beginning of the series. So then like taking an eye out would make sense because she hasn't necessarily fulfilled that, and then she's taking it, and now he is that for her.
Yeah.
But I took it as like eye for an eye.
Because but it is that
more literal.
It is that toy that's kind of like floating through space that we see.
Yeah, we see a lot
times. Yeah, because I think Midori gave it to him. Which, anyway, so that's pretty much kind of what this series becomes, and then Punpun becomes Devil Punpun, and he goes
punish Punpun.
Ooh, punish Punpun. And during this time, Sashi's just finishing her manga and being like, "Where's Punpun?"
Yeah, and then the person's like,
seen him?
"Your manga got a lot better once you started writing it. You got rid of your writer.
He was writing it. He was dragging you down.
I think is like which I think is a really cool thing about this series, because it almost kind of shows you that, as important as you maybe like want to be, the sad thing is that without you in people's lives, like, and this is maybe like a bleak way of looking at it, like people's lives will go on.
That's the whole point of the story.
People will be fine.
Yes.
People will still succeed or not succeed, but
her family the whole time is just being like, it's Punpun. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. Oh no, D.
Yeah.
I love how he calls him. Oh no, D. He's cool. And like, I like the conversation that they have between like, aren't you like nervous? And he's like, well, I mean, you can be friends with someone and just drift apart for a little bit. Doesn't mean you're not still friends. And he's such a good friend. Like, that is so realistic. Like, not holding it against you. Like, you're not hanging out with me. Because like, I have friends who I haven't seen in like years, and then when we see each other, it's like the first time. Nothing happened. Nothing changed.
He even says like Punpun just isolates sometimes. Like, he just does that. That's what makes him Punpun, and I love him for that.
Yeah,
and that's like a really accepting friend, I feel like.
He is, and I love him. And my favorite,
I do. And
Gasumi.
Sachi goes on this like hunt for Punpun. and
She's
his
hunting for
past.
herself. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, who am I without this person to
Make my mangas worse.
make my mangas worse and
Yeah.
be my pet? I don't know.
And she has like a moment with Mr. Punyama, which I thought
yeah.
was going to play out way different than it did.
It's pretty sad.
It was very sad.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be pervy with her, which he kind of was a little bit kind of in the beginning. When the guys came over, he's like, this is my girlfriend. And I was like,
Yeah.
here he goes. But then it became just like too real and too sad. Because I also feel like he was kind of like, he didn't really, like, I feel like no one in Punpun's life really gets Punpun or knows Punpun except Uichi in a weird way. Even
Mhm.
Punpun's dad was like, I might be biased, but Punpun was super talkative and he was like
Yeah, no.
super popular. And
No,
he was like this and this
no.
and that. And it's like, who are you talking
yeah,
about?
who are you talking about? The idea of like people like parents have the idea of their kids like in their brain and they're like, this is what you are, and you're like, but I'm not, but you are.
Yeah.
It's like that type of like parent thing, like they want to believe and put like their expectations on you before you even know what the fuck's going on. So
And then they describe that moment too, where he kind of, because then I think Mr. Punyama realizes that like, oh, there was this moment when he was a kid that he went missing.
And
he
then-
did this before.
yeah, and then we find out that he had a friend who died.
Yeah. From looking for shooting stars.
Yeah, looking for shooting stars, he got hit by a fucking motorcycle.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that would be something to bring up.
Yeah, you think that's
That's probably why you're so kind of fucked up and you didn't deal
Yeah.
with that death, huh? No one talked to you about it. No one
Yeah.
even brought it up after that. No one even brought it up.
Yeah, no one talked about it.
No one talked about it. It was just, oh, how was your day? He was probably just like, good.
I mean, it's just,
it was
puts,
all right.
Yeah.
Punpun was
feeling fine.
Yeah, it was a good day, or what did
It was
they say?
it was having. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's something along those lines. Just in your mind, put the correct one.
Yeah, but this is where it like contextualizes a lot of things about Punpun and his childhood and why he was the way he was. But it also like it's this really kind of beautiful moment between Sachi and Mr. Punyama.
And the guilt he feels too, like he's
Yeah.
like starting to cry, and he's just like, "Fuck, I'm probably never gonna see my son again." And all the
Yeah.
guys are like, "Don't worry about that. We're
Yeah,
gonna
it'll
go
be
fishing.
fine."
We're getting crazy tonight."
That's a great support network. to
Yeah,
have.
dude.
I don't think I'll ever see my son again. Who gives a shit?
Hey, fuck it.
Fuck it, let's go fishing.
Yeah,
Say what you will see. A 6-pack.
yeah, their little community that they had kind of formed was kind of cool though.
That was nice.
Yeah, but she she tries to find what she can't. Some other things that I highlighted were that this is another big moment where they're on the lam back to Punpun and Aiko, and they're in the store, and Punpun's fight with this random guy
Oh,
in the convenience store.
The guy threw a can on the ground, which is like, hey, you know what?
But he was
That-
looking.
He's
for
an
something.
adversary for the
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where it becomes. He's like, that's where he become Punpun, the trash avenger.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's like, you
What
fucking threw that can on the floor.
What I
I
thought
mean, the
was
guy was kind
interesting-
of being a little bit of an asshole,
I
but
think that
still.
guy kind of called him out.
Yeah, he's like, don't follow me.
He's like, it is funny that you know what I kind of took away from it too, and maybe this is like reading into it. He assessed like the situation. Punpun did, because I think there's this moment, right? And I don't know if anybody else experiences this moment. I try to always catch myself when I feel these things. I don't know if you've ever been in like a traffic incident where someone either cuts you off or someone does something really dumb. I don't have road rage, but I do get angry when certain things happen, and it's almost like you see someone in the car, and there's this like gut reaction. I think to go like, I can take that person, so I can be mad at that person. And then sometimes you'll see someone like bigger than you that looks like they could fuck you up, and they're like, and you just gotta go like, whatever. You know?
I've never had that reaction.
Oh, because you can beat
for-
everybody up.
yeah.
That's why my gut reaction.
I was like, I've never had that.
And this has never failed. Is you look him in the eye
Love
and
it.
you give him a thumbs down.
I love it.
It has been like dudes that are just like jacked and they just like look down in shame
Because they're
When
expecting a fuck you.
It's
Yeah.
so perfect.
But it's just like, just don't do that again.
yeah, like
I'm disappointed in you.
Friday, I was at an intersection. The guy like it wasn't his turn and he went. I went like this, and he like
It's so good. It's so good because it's not full of anger, so
No.
it doesn't incite rage in the
No.
other person. It's almost like, oh my god,
yeah, like
I'm
I'm not like mad because nothing happened.
Yeah.
But like if someone like cuts off, they didn't do a signal. I'll like roll down the window and I like give him the thumbs down. It's like, come on, man.
I need to adopt that.
Yeah, it really does change your whole life because the people every time they go like, Yeah, I fucked up.
I need to adopt that, dude. But I did think that, like, because that guy says, like, it's funny how you picked me out of everybody in that store. You think that you think that we're the most fucked up people in that store? Like, it's weird out of everybody that you chose me, because there was a guy at the register, and I think purposely they showed a guy at the register, a bigger dude, cussing out the clerk. Punpun didn't go after that guy. He went after the guy also conveniently in the same kind of striped shirt that he was in.
He's trying to beat up himself.
Yes, people like you are the worst. And
You
the guy's
remind
like,
me
"What?"
of myself. That's why I'm gonna fuck you up.
And he really fucked that guy up.
Yeah, like, and then
I thought he was gonna kill him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too. Me
he
too.
was.
Yeah.
He probably was. And then Aiko's like, "Stop! Oh my god, stop beating the shit out of him!" And he's like, "Okay." And then they fucking try to drive off, and the guy's like, "You fucking bitch!" And he hits the car, and I was like, "Good for you!
Yeah,
man.
Good for fucking you! You just lie there and bleed out. You fucking took charge and was like, I'll give you one before you go."
I gotta say, dude, that guy really handled that situation pretty gracefully.
Yeah.
Because he was also like,
a little too well.
He's like, if we go back and the trash can's full, like I said, it's full, then you're gonna apologize to me, right? And I was like, just take it back.
Does that happen a lot? I feel like it
Yeah,
doesn't.
dude.
Oh yeah, because he's like, I couldn't throw it away. The trash can was full. I was like, no, it wasn't. It was like,
You're like,
if-
do you know? Did you check? He was like,
no.
no, no. Well, we want to go check. I'll go walk with you to check. And if it's full, you owe me apology.
It's so crazy. I would have never responded that way.
People like you disgust me.
He's like what? The trash can was full.
But after that, we have another like crucial moment where Aiko and Punpun go on another journey to the beach, and they have this moment.
Journey,
They have
fun
a
times.
Punpun beach episode.
Yeah, the beach episode of Punpun.
Love it.
Yeah, loved it.
Love
So
the
much
Punpun
fun.
beach episode. She admits to him on the beach though, as Punpun, because Punpun realizes, again, this is where it gets very dark. Punpun realizes that Aiko can't live without him, but he can't live.
Doesn't want to
period.
live anymore.
Yeah, so to save them both a lot of time,
A nice
lot of
little
trouble.
middle ground.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, he like goes to strangle.
She's
her.
like, am I gonna die here? And he goes, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, but don't worry, I'm gonna be right behind you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so crazy, just like to see like this person he's become. It's fucking
A classic murder suicide on a beach.
oh my god, dude, it's fucking crazy. And then Aiko admits to him like,
Because
I
"You're not
killed
a
her."
killer. Yeah, I
Yeah.
killed her. When you went to go check on the delivery guy, she got back up. She was breathing, and I wasn't just taking out my rage on her. I was putting her out of her fucking misery.
I don't know. That might have not been true either. And she's just saying that to make him feel better because maybe she was dead and she was just like, I'm going to stab my mom.
I mean, that's kind of what I do like about this series. It's not, I took it as truth, but I do think that you can read it either way.
Yeah.
Because she does reiterate it again later. Punpun asks her like 2 times after that, like, were you lying about that? And she says like, no, I was telling the truth. But she could have just continued to lie.
She's crazy.
Well, yeah, and they're both liars.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know. Maybe she's just saying that to, do it. But
And the thing is, like, you could be absolutely right. And if the mangaka came out and said that was the case, then I would believe it wholeheartedly. And that's what I like about it, is it is a little open-ended.
Mhm.
At least, like, it can be open-ended, I
Yeah.
guess. But that's a big moment for him.
Yeah, and it just gets worse. And like Sachi's still on her mission to find him, and like you find out that like he's doing just like these little things that he does are just so nice.
Yeah.
Like he goes to visit the old
landlord,
man,
yeah.
and he's like he comes every other
Who,
day and
by
brings
the way,
little
I just
cats.
really quickly have to point out, he's a penis, right? That guy. If you look, like, there was a moment where you guys keep talking.
Get a load of this guy.
Yeah. You guys.
I'm gonna go ahead and say
I didn't get those vibes. I didn't
not
get
a
those
thought that
vibes.
occurred to me.
You go ahead. No, I don't want.
I
don't want you to get
I
distracted.
know exactly.
I'm not going to get distracted, but
you-
I'm
the
just
guy you're
trying to
talking
wrap my
about, I
head
know.
around.
I was gonna find it. I was gonna find out. What you guys
look,
thought.
there he is.
Yeah, look at his hair. Look at the shape of his head. Look at how long his neck is. How long his neck is. Do you see it?
I do, but
Do you see it?
When I
I
look
think
through
your head's in the gutter.
when I look through your eyes, sure.
No,
see
dude.
it.
There was one panel where they showed him from behind, and he had his long ass neck and his mushroom haircut, and it's a penis, dude. It's not.
I wouldn't put it past me. I wouldn't put it past him.
Talented mangaka.
I wouldn't put it past
who
him.
is very intentional with every panel.
Very sexual.
And every
I
character
think
design.
sometimes you see the things you want to see.
Look, I challenge people watching it to look at a picture of him and see something else. He is a sweet man,
shit.
but he's also got a penis for a head.
Okay.
He's got a head for a head.
Head for a
Eye
head.
for an eye, head for a head.
Oh, no. Okay.
What were you going to say?
Nothing.
I'm okay. So that happens.
Anyway, yeah, that happens. And yeah, so Sachi's on a quest still, and Pegasus is this whole time shit's happening with Pegasus in the background.
Yeah.
He's, Mr. Wada has kind of confessed to Seki at this point, like that
He could tell the future, but he doesn't know how to interpret it.
No. How I took it was that he believes that Pegasus can see the future and is 100% right about everything that's going to happen. But if he prevents those events from happening, then no one will believe him. Because if I say the world's going to end unless I do this thing, and then I do that thing and the world doesn't end, people are going to go yeah, sure, the world was never going to end. So I took it as Mr. Wada's kind of thing is I need these events to happen
In order.
so that people believe Pegasus, because this world needs a savior, kind of. So in a roundabout sort of way, he's trying to prove that Pegasus is what he says he is by throwing a wrench into Pegasus's plan.
Yeah, instead of the Kool-Aid, I'm going to set it on fire so it actually happens and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, he tried to really fuck shit up. But he also is continuing to tell Seki that he wants him to press this button and not to worry about the implications of what pressing this button might be. And it's around this time too that Seki finally does it, because he's trying to go. He's kind of going through it with Shimizu, I think is his name, and he's having a really hard time. Their relationship is very complicated, and Shimizu's part of this cult, and he's not taking Seki's shit anymore. He's being his own person.
Yeah, he's Pegasus believes in me. You never did.
I'm a burden to you, and I've been nothing but a burden to you. And then Seki finds out that pushing the button was just turning on a TV for Mr. Wada's mom or something like that? Or was that his mom?
An old lady or something. I don't know what the relation was. I just know that she couldn't find the remote.
Yeah.
That's a great when that movie where it's you press this button you'll get money, but someone you don't know will die. It's press this button, and it's why? Because I can't find my remote.
Because I can't find the remote. Yeah, that's great.
Because I want to watch TV.
I don't really understand the significance of that. That was a beat in the story that I didn't really analyze too much. I do feel like there is obviously a lot of some significance there, but I didn't really unpack that just because there's so many other things happening in this story around this time. And
it's hard to follow too. I'm okay, they're doing okay. But okay, so that's ass face and
penis head.
They're crazy ass names.
Because it's around this time too that they find Aiko's mom's body. And now they don't know what to do. And so Punpun and Aiko are just walking around. Aiko says that she's gonna go. Meanwhile, their wounds are fucking infected.
She's got fevers.
Yeah. Aiko says she's gonna go to her uncle, who was a doctor, and Punpun has this hatred for family. He's just how
he doesn't trust him.
Yeah, he's just just because someone's your family, your blood doesn't mean that they're going to be there for you. They still might turn you in. He's just been so hurt by his family. He doesn't really have a functional family to point to. So he questions everybody else's intentions. She says she's going to confess as soon as she gets the doctor's office has been moved. She said she's going to confess, and then they kind of have this really sweet moment where they both fall asleep. And then they wake up the next morning, and Aiko has hung herself, which is sad enough, and was a moment that really fucked me up. But then Punpun just starts to carry her around on his back. Yeah, and that was.
Hey kids, can you just watch her? She's really tired. I'm just gonna go get something really quick. You guys can watch her, right?
Yeah, they run into this couple that finds them, and he tells them that she's asleep.
Yeah, they're kids.
Yeah.
And the kids come, they're hey, Yeah, you're not supposed to be here. And he's like, we know, we're sorry. And she's just fucking dead.
Yeah.
Like, she's just a dead body. Like, can you guys watch her? And she's just...
Yeah. And
it's so sad.
I don't think he's really thinking logically. He goes back to get her bag that they left in a phone booth because he was going to call somebody and then decided not to. And then, of course, he sees an ambulance kind of drive by as he's walking back and then just goes to check. And, of course, she's gone. And he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go back to Tokyo. And he goes back to Tokyo and it's at this moment where he's like, all right. If there's ever a time to go through with it and do it, it's now.
Yeah.
And he has this like, yeah, he has that moment and that voice in his head tells you like, why don't you go back to your sad, little life, instead or whatever. And he's just like, nah, dude, come on. I mean, after all this shit, there's no other option for me. I'm checking out, and he, stabs himself. In the
face.
In
the eye.
Yeah.
In the eye. Yeah. Not the...
Ay.
Yeah.
Ay, caramba. Am I right?
Obviously, this is like...
Yeah, that's what I thought reading that.
That was pretty intense.
Yeah, this whole, back half of the series is really dark and really intense. And I think that's why, like, hopefully nobody is watching this thinking that we're making light of it. It's just our way of dealing with, like, how incredibly emotionally deprived this whole fucking shit feels.
We can talk like this the whole episode.
Yeah.
This is how we actually feel about
But I will say I did not have any emotional peaks reading this.
I mean, I had quite a few.
I had like emotional disgust moments of being but like of like I didn't cry reading it. I didn't feel like there's other mangas about much more like silly things that I'll like form like real connections with and care, and I'll cry or I'll feel sad or I'll be like, oh no. But reading this was like I felt like gross, but I wasn't like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Like when he stabbed himself, I'm like, oh, okay, so he stabbed himself now. I think that because it was so dark, I was sort of just like, oh, so what's gonna happen now? They're gonna do
it kind of felt. Oh, it was just like a little bit of like an inevitable sense of things happening. Like, oh, this happened because of this. This happened because of this. It's kind of like, oh, this is like the truth of the story. It's not necessarily like, I didn't expect that to happen, because all of it's kind of...
Yeah, because again, I've
there.
cried during cells at work. But
I cried.
This is the whole thing is like, oh, this is like the saddest manga ever. I'm like...
I cried at the end. Because it felt so like... It did feel a little bit complete, and I felt like hopefully he's like better because he did like go to prison. He was.
I don't think it said he went
that's
to prison.
left ambiguous.
It didn't say he went to prison. It said
I thought he
was
went probation.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you go to prison.
What does probation mean?
Probation is where you just have to check in with your like probation officer from time to time, and they have to like check up on you and make.
So he just got away with.
Well, I don't think he did it. I mean, they probably looked into it
because it was. I mean, it was her, and he was just, and she's dead now.
Yeah, and I mean, they probably found out a lot. They probably found out about
the abuse,
and they,
Yeah,
I'm sure they came to a conclusion that either Aiko did it. Or that woman was a terrible person. Not that that's an excuse for murdering somebody. Not that that's how the law works. But
I mean, yeah, because the reality is she killed her mother, and then you ran off with her.
But you buried the body.
So if there was evidence of it, yeah.
But you buried the body, so
yeah. I mean,
it could also be there. Like, was it? I think that they leave that sort of vague because there are so many things that can lead him to sort of being like, all right, now I'm.
Yeah, there's also a moment too that's like there's a couple things that are open ended like that. Like they just kind of gloss over the fact that he was on probation, but they don't go into like exactly the process or the trial.
I think the most emotional part for me was when Sachi finds Punpun when he stabbed himself.
Oh yeah.
And then she's like, "All right, then we'll kick out of the abortion again, and then you and me we're gonna get back together." And we gotta ask this guy questions. Like what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
and
that
she was
like
fucked. Just heartbroken because they were like, "Do you know anything about it was like a murder?" And she's just like, "Fuck, Punpun, fuck! Like, what did you do?"
Yeah,
it's the ultimate like hurt of like someone you love doing like a horrible thing.
Well, because she had that moment where she's traveling, that she realizes she's like, "Fuck, man, I don't know who this guy is." I don't know who this person is. I've kind of like
He's a sad guy I met at a bar.
Yeah.
And I've devoted a lot of my energy into this.
and I've assumed a lot of things about him and maybe projected a lot of things onto him.
The
but like,
Punyamas have that appeal to them.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, they really do.
The uncle, him.
I mean, he
They have that
confessed
energy.
his true, dark, like, sad ways of thinking. That's when I knew I loved him. And then, you know, that was like the second thing he ever said to me was when he masturbated to my pubic hair. And I need him in my life. And you're
I
like,
fucking need him.
That's
He's
what
my
I'm-
muse.
yeah. You're like, you
the
can move on past this guy. Get back
this
with your
is
ex.
this is where I cried. Just like the monologue
Yeah,
of him talking
to Aiko.
to Aiko and like catching her up on things because it's just like
You know, and I think he was like letting go of guilt a lot, and he was telling her that like, you know, I had, and he's like kind of letting go of everything, and he's realizing that he's for the first time I think dealing with things, and he's for the first time I think processing everything and choosing to move on, and it's like a hard thing.
Aiko's so cute and she just fucking had a fucked up life and she's never gonna grow old.
Yeah, she had a super fucked up life. I have one question before we get to the very, very end. Because just to really quickly gloss over, because I don't think, you know, I think compared to the other things, like this moment is a big moment, but whatever. I'll just get to it. The fire. Mr. Wada sets the building on fire because the cult members
I
chicken
already
out
said
of
that.
killing
Sorry,
themselves.
I forgot.
No. But my question is because Seki breaks in to save Shimuzu, which we talked about too. But he does find him, and then the fire department kind of comes to the rescue, saves both of them, and then Seki looks up, and Shimuzu's in the UFO with Poop God,
right there.
and he's in there with the other cult members that died. So I don't understand why he's in there. And also, what's curiouser about it is that when they meet up again after he gets out of the hospital, Shimuzu has no memory of Seki, or at least that's what he says. Because Seki goes like, "Oh my God, you're out," blah 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 blah, and Shimuzu goes like, "Who are you?"
Yeah. I think it was maybe the like.
So
I don't know, like
don't
the
know
true
what that means.
his true self like dying, like he's starting like anew because he doesn't remember anything.
But I mean, are we to believe that he got some sort of like, is he experiencing some sort of like amnesia, or like is this a symbolic thing, or is this like a actual physical result of what happened?
A lot of things you can go in here with cults and stuff, because I know that's sort of a thing with cults. Like, we have to do it exactly this time, and then we'll travel through like that thing, and that's what the spaceship. I know there's like some cult it's a spaceship, and we got
the Heaven's Gate.
we gotta die, and then that's how you get on the ship. I mean, we'll explain it to you after you drink the Kool-Aid. But Flavor Aid for people who don't feel the need to be like, it wasn't technically.
Which there are those people.
We know.
We fucking
no
know.
one cares.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if Megan said that the author like that is real, like they did go on a spaceship with the poop guy. Which would mean that, like, I guess part of him did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then another part, and there might be something about how, like, that guy, he stayed being a little snot-nosed kid his whole life.
Yeah.
Who, like, refused to grow up and move on and always, like, had that childish image of God or whatever.
And maybe he has this chance to, like, start over.
Yeah, if he
doesn't remember him, he doesn't remember his mom.
I do get that, but it was just so vague that, you know, I would have, and again, this is like, in a lot of ways, a masterpiece, but I do think that for me at least, that bow could have been tied a little more clearly, because it also didn't really have an impact. It was more of a,
oh, he has amnesia?
It was more of like a, you know?
Who are you?
And he's like, oh, I'm touching. Oh, okay, sorry, my.
Yeah, we didn't see that.
They cut away right before. Like,
oh, sorry,
right, no,
fuck.
sorry,
Right,
no,
my bad. I'm on a lot of drugs right now. From the hospital.
Honestly, that's how I feel about that. Like, it's like, who are you? And it's like, the fire does not cause amnesia, so
yeah, that's what
you
I mean.
don't
like,
have amnesia.
Asphyxiation, oxygen.
No,
maybe to your
nothing
brain.
Causes.
Did he fall and hit
Maybe,
his head?
yeah,
Is that something
maybe.
that only happens in sitcoms? I don't know.
I don't know.
Do people hit their head and lose their memory?
He got fucked up. And it's also for trauma. People that go through extensive things of trauma, they forget things.
And is it true if you hit them again, then they get their memory back?
Yeah. If you get hit in the back of the head by a donkey, you get your memory back.
Well, that's really specific.
It only works once, though.
It only works once.
Oh, wow.
You know that movie where she's like cross-eyed and then it's like, oh, she got hit in a donkey and then the donkey hits her again and they're like, oh my god, she's not cross-eyed
I mean, I feel like
anymore.
that is just a thing.
I just found out that the thing they would always, they got hit by a donkey. That's why they're neuroatypical. That's how they would just explain it to people back in the day. Because if they couldn't just say, like, first they didn't understand what those things were.
Uh-huh.
And they just made that excuse.
And there would be prejudice against, like, if you were born with deformities.
Yeah.
So they would just like, oh no, they got hit by a thing, and then people are like, oh, that sucks, and they move on. But if you say like, oh no, it'd be like a lot worse. So that's in Of Mice and Men.
It's amazing, you know. We've come a long way. We've come a long way. For a lot of times, I feel like people fixate on like how maybe regressed or whatever us as a society feel, but when you look just like 100 years back, like we were pretty fucking stupid.
20 years. Every 20 years.
Now the
we
founder
progress.
of psychology was like an idiot who was just wrong.
Yeah.
And he still gets to be the founder, but like everything he said, everyone's like, no, that even doctors 200 years ago were like, I don't know, did you get rid of the bad blood?
Yeah, dude, we really had no clue.
It's just
a history of just us winging it.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah.
That'd be the good name for a sarcastic book called "History of Winging It: The Story of Man."
Ooh,
yeah. You know that's how that guy thinks about his life. The author of that.
Ooh, Story of Man.
Yeah, they'd sell it at like Spencer's or something. You know.
Yeah. Check it out. I got the Story of Man. Page 1 is called "Oopsie."
Oopsie.
But yeah, dude, and that's pretty much the end. The last.
Yeah, I don't know why he has amnesia.
I don't know why he has amnesia. The last.
I don't know why he was on the ship. I don't know any of that.
And you know, again, there's things that we're brushing past or skimming over for time, but obviously because the meteor shower happens, the police talk to Punpun. Uichi has his baby,
and he sees. He's like, oh no. And it looks. He's another bird.
He's another bird. Another cycle.
He sees the Godhead in his eyes, and he's like, he's gonna be like me.
He's gonna be like me. God, that's fucking sad though.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just make sure before we get to the very end, make sure that we didn't skip anything like super important. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it until we get to Harumi. Mm-hmm. And Harumi's now a teacher. And Harumi is this exact opposite of Punpun.
It's like what he could have been.
Yeah. He went off and had this exceptionally ordinary life. Almost to a fault. Like his wife doesn't even really love him that much.
She's like, when are we gonna get the dress, bitch?
It's like painfully normal his life is. And they go to like a school reunion and he sees Seki, and that's another thing. He asks about Shimizu at the reunion, and Seki's like, oh yeah, he's not here. He's a nurse now. He can't make it. But it's like, where is he? You know?
Why couldn't you just have him there?
Yeah.
Why did he have to be gone?
As bland of an answer as that. Like, a shift at being a nurse is probably more important than going to a reunion.
But is Seki lying? You know, it just...
We don't know. We'll never know.
I think it's this thing of like, it's either this grand thing of like, oh, his part of his soul went on the spaceship and he lost his memories and they got, but like, oh, he's not ready to be shown to people. Or he was like a little dazed after a fire.
Yeah.
And that, well, no, he couldn't get off work to make it. It is like, it's either this like grand, bizarre thing, or it is like...
Or maybe he was like dazed and it was just like another excuse to be like reaffirming, like, no, like we're friends.
Yeah.
Like I'm your friend. Like,
who are you? Your best friend.
I'm your comrade.
Okay.
I am comrade.
I am comrade, friend.
I don't know what it is, but it just I don't know.
It's unfulfilled for you.
It was like unfulfilling. It was like an unanswered
Much
question.
like life.
Okay. But yeah, and then the reunion is one thing, but it's the reunion that Harumi has with Punpun at the very end. That's the saddest. And the saddest line of all to me that summed up this like human experience and condition and just like how we all just like live our lives and how we all have to just keep moving, whether it's forward or backwards, we all just keep moving, was when he's like having this reunion with Punpun, who's been through so much, and Harumi's had this like normal life, and they're reconnecting, and their conversation just falls apart and becomes like about the weather, and that's when they both realize like this is pointless. But he also like has this moment where he's like, and I didn't even remember his name, you know? And I was like, fuck. That was the line where I was like, that is like too real of a thing. It was too true.
And then we see Sachi and all the rest of the gang, and we see Sachi's baby.
Yeah.
That she ended up having.
Yeah.
And I was like, and just Punpun like holding her little face. I was like, fuck, I'm literally crying.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he's like waving goodbye to him, and he's like crying, and it's Punpun. It's just, he's back in his bird body, he's back to himself. And he's just happy.
He's crying though as he's like waving to Harumi, and I don't know if he remembers Harumi or not, but I think is it that Harumi doesn't remember him, or that he doesn't remember Harumi? But either way, they do. I do think that they have a moment where they talk about like him moving away, right? Mm-hmm. And how it really kind of affected him, and it made him sad. And I think there's just this like, I don't know. Like I said, it's these two sides of a coin situation where we just see Punpun probably as healed as he can be.
Yeah.
But
hey, he has both of his eyes. I thought he lost one.
I don't know how that's possible. Man, that guy's got
prosthetic.
Strong eyes. Yeah. And then we just see Harumi, who's just painfully normal in his ordinary life, and like, I don't know, like it almost is like, who lived more? What's more fulfilling? What is one better than the other? Really? Are they all the same? Like, it was just like a lot of questions can be asked by the end of this, like what the meaning of it all was. And I think it's like definitely whatever you take away. I think everybody's going to take away something different from reading this.
Yeah.
I mean, I really liked it, but I also was glad to be done. So glad to be done. And then the very last thing too is that like Harumi and his new class, they kind of separate, they go back, and he sees, you know, they have this repeating moment again where there's a new girl, and she's introducing herself in front of the class, and there's a kid like Punpun who just starts blushing, and it's like this cycle of fucking pain continues, and it was just like, it was like the end of a horror movie.
Yeah, it was like,
yeah.
I can hear the music.
It was the equivalent of like a hand coming out
of the grave.
Yeah,
totally.
Dude. I
I don't want this to happen to anyone ever again.
No. If I would have had a bucket of popcorn, I would have fucking thrown it over my shoulder. I would, that's how scary.
Oh man,
that's how scary this was, man. So final thoughts about the series as a whole. What did you guys take away from it? How was it?
Having finished the story,
yeah,
I didn't like it.
Wow, man, that's a bold statement, dude.
Beyond like the fact that like I don't like dramatic sad stories. I just like, in the same, I don't like battle shonen. I don't like BLs. I don't like shouju. I can
never say it. I can never fucking say it.
I don't like any of those. I never have liked sad movies or stories, but like also like I like reading it. It was like, oh, like when it got to the part where they kill the mom, I wasn't like, oh my god. I was like, all right, come on, man.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like, oh my god either, but I was like, fuck.
And for such
it's more fuck moments more than it's like fuck.
Because for such a thing, like it's drama. I didn't have any emotional peaks with it. It's not hard for me to have those, but because it was so devoted to like being like super sad, I never like connected with the story.
I mean, I don't think this is necessarily an appropriate term for it, but like, are you comparing it to something that is almost like trauma porn in a way, I guess? Like,
I've never heard that term, but that sounds right.
I think people use it. People use that term. I've heard that term before. I don't know where from, but
you're alive.
You're alive.
Right. Where it's just like, sadness for the sake of sadness, or it's like seeing how sad and how dark we can get just to see how sad and dark we get.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Like I'm into very sad stories, but the point isn't to be sad. There are stories where like it hits these like super dark notes for this story where I'm like, Jesus Christ. But like that's because they do other stuff to make me care about them.
Yeah.
So it's not that like, but if a story is just devoted to that, I just check out and I'm like, I don't. Yeah, it is like, do people enjoy this feeling? Because like I can't imagine like being like, new issue of Punpun comes out next week.
Yeah.
I only read this because of this. I would have dropped it like after I probably volume 5.
Yeah. I mean, I had a completely different experience. I understand kind of where you're coming from with it, and I do wonder how this was released. If it was,
yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying I don't like it.
Right. That's fair.
To be, I'm for what it was trying to do. Very well done. But this is something where it's like I wouldn't recommend it to someone. This won't hold a place in my heart. This is something I'm going to move on and read something else now. I'm done with this series now. If you like, I do think, what was it?
What?
Trauma porn.
Trauma porn. Yeah.
Drama porn.
Drama porn.
If you like trauma porn, then you'll love Punpun by Oyasumi.
That's not the manga.
I had a completely different experience with this series, but before I go, Megan, what did you think? What was your experience with it?
Yeah, it was fun. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
I like birds, so I thought. I mean, I did like it.
I thought you sold me on this guy. I didn't know what I was getting into. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. As someone like who's like obviously been through some of the things that have happened in this story, it was very in a weird way comforting to know also that other people were like, oh yeah, I've gone through that too, and you're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you develop, this like unsaid bond with the human race, and everyone goes through things, and like everyone's just figuring it out because this is their first time living. Oh my god. What's the fuck's going on? Like it's like this is their first chance at life. This is their only chance at life. Like you have to accept that like people make mistakes, like you can't undo things once they're done. So this series really shows like people fuck up, people move on, people grow, people have relationships, people break up. Like it's just the human interaction that you have to like just be a better person and like try to put good into the things that you do, because not everything in life is going to be good, and you have to deal with things that aren't good, but the way you deal with them is like important to what you put in the world and like what you want back.
Yeah. I think it's obviously a series that I can't say you can just recommend to anybody.
No.
But is this something that you would either read again or encourage somebody to read, or?
I mean, if I know the person has can have an appreciation for film or novels or like a good story. I mean, I get Cody's point where it's like, oh, it's just being edgy to be edgy at some points, but like it's just the circumstances of the story. I don't think like it felt real. Like, oh, these things are just happening because of this. It didn't feel like, oh, we're just gonna draw someone dying now. Like sometimes, oh, we're just gonna draw a character dying now. Like it didn't feel like that to me. It just felt like we're just watching this like life do this crazy winding road. It wasn't very much like this has to happen because it has to be edgy. So I get both sides, but it really depends on the person who is in taking it. Like I might recommend this series to people that aren't the biggest fan of manga, because it's just like it's a good story, and it's cinematic and like has so many different themes and meanings. So I think I would. Depending on the person.
You had your hand raised?
Well, to be clear, I wasn't saying it was edgy for the sake of edgy.
Sad.
The only point where I was like, that seems too much was where the events after her death, like that still felt like normal. It was just like that felt like too wild of a shift. In that was the only point where I was like, that seems a bit much. I don't think it was sad, not edgy. Just
sad.
I feel like those are completely.
Excuse me.
I know what you meant, but like that can create a completely different understanding of of what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you, Megan, in that I did feel like obviously it's a very beautiful cinematic story down to how, it's drawn. I mean, there are clearly panels in there that are stills from a movie. Things are like there's this depth of field, there's this composition, there's this detail that is cinematic. I'm looking at, sometimes I feel like screenshots of a movie. But I also do feel like, again, to agree with you, that this series more than anything does make me feel seen in a lot of ways. Like, and I'm not saying that obviously everything that is in here I've dealt with, but there are a lot of things, and there are a lot of similarities and a lot of things that inside my head I never thought anybody else ever said to themselves or thought out loud or felt. And to hear them articulated in a series, not just kind of similar, but like almost like at times word for word, was this it was a true experience, to the point where I did, it's a mixture of like, it made me feel nostalgic, but in a way that like, I don't want to feel nostalgic. Like,
I don't want to bring that up. It makes you just like put a mirror to yourself and be like, how can I make myself better after all the shit that I've gone through?
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever want to feel the way I felt that day. That's the
is that another song?
It's a song, right? But yeah,
Jeez,
I mean,
you have a problem, dude.
Yeah, no, it's like there were moments where like I can relate to that, but I don't like seeing
you don't want
things
to.
I can relate to. Like, I don't take comfort in that,
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, are you looking for a story that's going to allow you to escape? And this is
no.
Okay.
What I like in a story is an interesting story with characters like that. Like when they go down, it's not that I enjoy like purely happy stories either. I really don't. The stories are dramatic.
Then what do you like?
Yeah.
It's just very small.
It is weird.
There's
kind of
this
thing
nice
that you
little
really connect with. Yeah.
middle space, because you're doing your best right now to follow like probably my favorite story of all time, Heroes Die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which you just got to the part where it starts getting super sad, which I can relate to some of the things the character goes through, but like there's all this build up before that.
Yeah.
That I get to like about him. But
Sure.
like if it's just that, I'm like, I don't like that.
Okay.
It's not that
I'm trying
like
to
I'm not
understand.
Yeah, it's like I don't
I am.
I hear that all the time about stories where like, oh, it's like escape your everyday mundane life, and I'm like, not like some people do, sure, but like I like games. I like them to be super hard and challenging. I don't want to relax to anything. I want to I like playing games where like your character suffers or like there's like struggles and stuff.
Sure.
So I don't escape in stories. I enjoy them.
Right.
But I don't enjoy a super sad story.
I get that. And I do feel like, at least for me, I do feel like I mean, I've obviously healed a lot, like as I've grown older, especially too. So
Which
I think
you haven't, because you're a spring chicken.
Thanks, dude. Well, thanks. I mean, it was like a little, you kind of undercut what I was saying a little bit. But,
The one time I fucking
Wow, the one time you see that, guys? The one time he
So now
fucking
you know,
tries
now
to.
you
Now
know.
you fucking know.
Why aren't they more positive? Because this is what positivity brings.
okay, stop doing that. I do think I was at a place, obviously in a place to handle this, and that I have grown a lot, and that I do feel like if I would have read this when I was younger, I would have had a completely different experience with it, and I almost would have like commiserated and wallowed in like the similarities more.
Your
But
own
now-
misery.
Yeah, sure, but in the similarities more so, I would have. I don't know. I think now, like, I mean, I did hit this point in my journey of healing where I was like genuinely afraid of who I used to be. Like, if certain things would happen, or if I would come across certain things like this, I would get scared, because I felt like I could just snap back into being that person.
Oh, that
at any
feeling
moment.
of feeling the shadows in your mind creeping in? Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you know. But I did feel like it was because I didn't really know how I had kind of like gotten out of it. So it was always this thing of like, I felt like I was, even though I wasn't, I felt like I was teetering on the edge constantly. And so when I would get a phone call from a person, from an old friend that like represented a time in my life, I'd be afraid to answer, because I'd think like, I'm going to turn into that person again, you know? And so I guess what I'm trying to say is like, reading this, although it did make me feel seen, I was at a point in my life where I was ready to read it, and I did feel seen, and I did relate to it, and I did take away a lot from it. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's a significant story. I think it's a story that I needed to read. I'm glad I read. I truly don't think I'll ever read it again.
No.
See that, like, I would recommend it for the experience, because you do feel different after reading it.
Yeah.
And it is nice to see all these things, but then it's like, recommend it to who? Because who would I? Because I can be
You're
like
signing people up for like despair,
and it's 13 volumes, and because I could change something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Hey, look, it does get real. There are like pretty brutal moments in it, and it does get sad. See, that's like, it's not something being sad is the issue, but it's like, I don't know who I would be like, dude, you got to check out Punpun. There are sad stories where I could, or more dramatic ones where I'd be like, it's like it's really nice to like feel that, and the way it's done is really good. But that's not how I felt about it at the end of this.
This manga, it's like, it's recommended to people that are like questioning whether or not they should read it. Like, where they're like, oh, I've heard of Oyasumi Punpun, should I read it? And you're just like, you should just be like, yes. I mean, it depends on where you are, but like if you're thinking about reading it and you want to read it because you're interested in it,
I almost feel like that's a sign that you shouldn't read it.
And you know the themes, because I've always heard about this.
Yeah.
Like I've always been like curious about it, and I never picked it up for whatever reason because I just had these like expectations of it. But I did it. I have my badge now. I have my Oyasumi Punpun badge.
That's how I feel. I don't want anyone to read this, but they should.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
Yeah. I mean, that's a beautiful way to say it.
I'm never going to look back. I'm never going to read this ever again. I don't have... You guys are the only friends I know that read manga, so, like, there's no one else... I wouldn't be like, I wouldn't recommend this to other people besides that. If they're like, what's one manga I should read? It wouldn't be this.
I do agree with Megan, though, that it is, although maybe I wouldn't, it is a series that you can recommend to people who've never read manga before. Because it is, like, it's not... like what you would think a typical manga series would be.
It is. I mean, it would be a great way to show people that like manga isn't a genre; it's a medium that stories are told in.
Yeah.
Check this out. What is like a bird, and he's like, and then they're like, oh
just
no.
you wait.
Oh no, what is this?
Yeah.
And you're like, it's.
Yeah.
I think you should experience this. I just wouldn't want you to.
I mean, that's a perfect way to say it. I feel the same way. I don't want anybody to feel what I felt while going through this, but I think you should if you can.
Because, all right, here we go. This is like trauma.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want anyone to go through trauma. But when you share trauma with someone, you can like have a better bond with them. So this is like trauma condensed into 13 volumes. And if you read this with someone, you'd be like, hey, I get you a little.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I don't think there's really a better way to say it. I really connected with it. I found, I took away, I think, some very important things for myself from it. And it is an experience, a physical, an emotional, a mental, all those things experience. And I'm glad I did it. Again, wouldn't do it again, probably, because I think you just can do it once.
I would do a reaction video for the Punpun anime. We should do that. Where we watch episodes.
I don't think there will be an anime.
Oh my god!
I do not think that would be. I just don't think it would. I don't think they could
Never
do it.
in a million
no.
years.
I don't think they could just do it justice at all.
But I think that's it. I mean, I'm glad we're here. We're at the end of the road, and I'm glad that we all made it. That's it for our Punpun volume done. Man, it was a long time coming, number one, and it was like also emotionally preparing to get here, and then being in it and now being done, it's just like a weight off of my shoulders. I do think we've said everything we can possibly say about this series. Take from it what you will. Obviously you've probably read it if you're watching this too, so let us know how you feel.
Or if you wanted to know what it was like and you didn't want to read it. Yeah. I honestly would recommend it.
But yeah, tell us what parts you connected with, or like what things you felt while you were experiencing it, because I do feel like it's different from everybody, and that everybody can take different things from it, which I think is the mark of a great series and a great story. So,
yeah, I don't know what this manga's about, but you guys seem really sad about this little bird guy. So I found a really cute comment to end the episode.
Okay.
This one comes from Error. Each co-host say 3 positive, honest, and genuine things that you like about your fellow co-hosts. No cop-outs. Hopefully this will help you on your Punpun journey.
I don't like that last part. Then you get to do something like, no, I like your shirt.
Right, no cop-outs. No cop-outs.
I like your shirt.
Yeah. Hey, nice jeans.
Nice.
What did your dad not need them today?
That was a really weird one.
I don't know
That was
if you're trying to add another chapter to the pun. But
I'm not good at insulting people.
Oh, you're actually not.
Yeah, see? I'm not.
So who's going first?
You wanna I don't have anything written down. I was gonna wing it, but by winging it, I was just gonna go with whatever was on my heart.
Okay. Well, I bullet pointed this because I had to be prepared. So I'll start with Megan.
Of course you will.
Now I want to stress. I don't like doing this kind of. This
I don't like Megan. I want to stress that.
I don't like being genuine. You know that.
I feel yeah.
Number one, Megan, you bring a fun and energetic and talent to this podcast, and it wouldn't be the same without all that. I know people appreciate that, and you're definitely bring the energy up to where it would probably be pretty low, or if it was just me and Josh. That kind of leads it to the fact that the notes you take are, you make these mangas very clear into what they are. You put a lot of effort into it that I think a lot of people won't ever see, but they're always so like. It's sort of a part of the podcast that people don't get to see behind the scenes. And you also showed me the outgoing side of anime and manga by going to like Frankensons and doing all these things and just showing. Well, we'll get to you. Let me just delete something real quick. Delete that real quick. You sort of represent that fun part of the whole experience, and you're a positive influence on
My face
us.
is smiling.
Josh.
My turn. This is gonna be really
hard for him. Yeah. Do you need water?
Your hard work and devotion to the channel makes this all possible. I mean, we get to see you like the sheer stress on your head that precedes this every episode for 10 minutes. People will never see the literal sweat pouring down as you're going through your bullet points and note cards and checking sound volumes. Obviously this wouldn't exist without you. You literally turned your apartment into a studio. Yeah. And people think this is a studio.
Yeah.
This is your room.
This is my room, yeah.
All this equipment, and that's,
Go ahead. Sorry.
Obvious, we've been friends for multiple years.
Yes.
Me. So that's I like that. You brought me into more anime and manga because I sort of I casually enjoyed it, but now obviously you've opened up this whole world, this whole medium to me. Because I would have stayed at like maybe reading Chainsaw Man, maybe My Hero before I was like I don't like anything anymore, as I do everything. But now, I've found out a lot of stories, and that wouldn't have happened without you. I mean, you two, obviously. That's what you all do. I like you.
Error broke Cody.
Yay!
So there you go. There's 3 positive things.
Wow, dude.
That was so nice, Cody.
First of all, 2 things. Cody, I appreciate you saying all those nice things. I know how hard it is for you. Number 2, I'm terrible at taking compliments as well.
Yeah, same.
If someone compliments me on anything,
well,
I
was just very happy. I was like,
when the comments are getting super positive, I'm in my head. I'm like, are you making fun of me?
what are you getting at?
Yeah,
what is your end game?
Yeah,
what's your angle?
I love this channel and comments. I'm like, that's not real.
You guys rock.
Like,
yeah,
what do you? I don't have money.
If someone ever goes like, "Hey, I like your hair," I'm like, "My hair? What about your hair?" Like, I immediately throw it off of me as fast as possible. But I know how hard that was for you, and I appreciate it, dude. Thank you for saying those nice things. Is it me or you, Megan?
I could go. Okay. Cody. I'll start with Cody.
Of course.
I'm sorry. I truly love your honesty. There's not a lot of honest people in this world. They say they want to be honest and like, I'll tell you how it is, but they don't. And Cody just does it. And it's Sometimes unfiltered, yes. Sometimes maybe not needed, yes. But it is very refreshing to know a person who is honest and can clearly communicate when things are not right or he doesn't like things, because some people just lie to themselves and lie to others. So I like that part about you, Cody. You're unique. I've never really met anyone else like you. I appreciate that. I don't like copies of people. And Cody, you aren't a sheeple. And you are unshaken. You do not change for anyone. You are your own person. People change for others, and others change for, just to benefit themselves. And you do not do that because you are you. And that's what I wrote for you.
Thank you.
Josh,
My turn.
you are one of the most genuine people I've ever met. You really carry yourself in a way that just make you be like, oh yeah, this is a good person. Like, I could trust this person with anything. Like, mine are a lot deeper. You guys are just.
I feel like I'm at my funeral.
Josh is a genuine person. Again, like, not a lot of those people are out there. You feel judged or weird, but like, you just, there's not that air about you. You don't judge people based off of like how they look or like first meetings. You are considerate. You always take other people into consideration, maybe even before yourself a little bit too much. But hey, that's just how it is. But you were like one of the most.
Say la vie.
You never really complain about like things that happen. You're like, oh no, I'll do that. Oh yeah, no, blah blah. Like with the podcast, you're just like, oh no, I'll do it. Oh no, I'll do it. And we're like, let me help. Can I help you? And you're like, no, it's fine. I got it. We're done. I'm like, how?
Yeah, I stayed up until 2 a.m. editing. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, you're such like a yes man, but like not in a bad way. It's just like you do it because you want to do it. It's like not because you have any other like ill intentions, which is like kind of hard to come by with people that just like do things because they want other people to be happy for their own reasons. But you do it because you genuinely want you do it.
Yeah.
And you are very reliable.
Oh.
You are very reliable. You always say what you're going to do and you put your mind to it and you go full force and you put your all in. You put 100%, cash it all in. And yeah. And you guys both are too funny.
That was very hard to hear, but because like of how nice it was. Like, I really appreciate both of those things or all the things that both of you said. It's so hard. It's incredible how hard it is to hear someone say nice things about you.
It's brutal.
It's brutal. It really is, but I really do appreciate it. It's fucking awesome. Thank you guys for saying those things. That's the episode. Thank you. Thank you guys. Okay, all right. Okay, so I'll start. I don't know who to start with. I guess I'll start with Cody. Get it out of the way.
No cop-outs. No cop-outs.
What I love about Cody more than anything, I think, is I wouldn't say more than anything, but one of the things I love about Cody is I love your analytical mind. I've told you this before when we were like reviewing, especially Chainsaw Man, like your ability to sort of break stories down and just talk about them in a way that just is so concise. Like you're able to like consume things and like have an opinion on them that I think is like that you don't like. You were saying like you don't back down for, you don't change to like appease anybody, but it's always like what like the conclusions you come to are often very insightful. And I think I struggle with that too when I'm like, what does this mean? But like you're able to like find the meaning in things. And I think it comes from, you just being an emotionally smart person. And,
Aquarius.
Well, that has nothing to do with it. I also like to not to piggyback off what you said, but it was one of mine. That you are unapologetically yourself, which I do like. I mean, a lot of times I feel like people do change their opinions or change who they are, and it's you don't like you want to be yourself always, but you're always trying to be better, and it's like at times it's like hard. What?
It's hard.
It's hard to be your friend. No comments. No comments. No, it's hard. I think to want to grow and stuff, and to want to be better. But I do see you like you're very aware of of how you come across, and you always try, like you're really introspective, and you're always trying to be better. Like you're aware of when like you're like, I need to go to the gym because like I know that I'll be this way or that way, and like you don't want to be those things. Like you want to be a better version of yourself, and I think that's like admirable to like want to pick yourself up and like as hard as it is, like
Cody, you're gonna cry.
be better. Is that fucking 3, dude? Do I have to come up with another?
I think that's good.
Megan. Megan is yeah, I know. Megan is you're many things, Megan, and one of them is
Oh, bitch.
one of them is
One.
An asshole. 3.
Yeah.
No, it's 2.
Well, you can count.
You can count. I love that about you. You said genuine, I think when you were saying nice things about me, but I would say that even more so you are genuine. Like something about you I think is just so pure. Like you're just like, I see you as like this very like pure person. And you said something to me once, and I don't think I don't think you know. I mean, you talk about coming in front of your parents, but you know, you're still pretty pure.
Okay, let me get this fucking straight. I'm not going over their house and being like, hey guys, where's the cum? Like, that's not what I'm doing.
I love that sitcom character though.
Hey guys, where's the cum?
Yeah,
That's his
great
catchphrase.
sitcom I do think you said this to me once, and I don't think you know how much it meant to me when you're like an older sister to me. I mean, that to me makes me so happy because I think that like you are someone who's pure, I think genuine, and as like one of the like most kind hearts. I think you're just like your empathy and your understanding, and you also like, you know, not to really put your stuff out there, but you know, you're also kind of going through whatever you're going through, and it's never what I feel like shame about sometimes is like I'll talk about the things I go through just because it's like the only way I know how to deal with it, but like I feel like you're so much more willing to kind of like hear people. Like you've never once brought up like things that you're going through to the point where you tell us sometimes, and I'm like, Megan, like, why wouldn't you tell us that you're going through that? Like, I almost feel sometimes, and not purposely, you weren't doing this purposely, but I almost feel like, I'm like, man, I feel dumb for just continuing to talk.
No.
Because I should have asked, you know, I should be you make me want to be a better person and ask more about people, like, because you are so kind and you're so, you know, you're so just nice, and you bring a level of, I think, like, I know Cody said energy too, and I swear to God I'm not piggybacking, but
another thing.
No, I swear to God, this is why you go last though. You do bring it, like your energy is just so warm, and it's just so different, and truthfully, like it's an energy that I'm not like. I'm used to being around comics who are like cynical and like who are jaded and who are just like,
I've been through some shit.
Yeah, and I know that's not to say that you haven't, but I mean, you're just like, regardless of what you've been through, you just have a very optimistic sort of personality, and it's always like laughter, and it's always just fun. Like you're just a very fun person to be around, and yeah, your energy is truly this is gonna sound corny, but infectious. Like I want to be more silly when I'm around you, and I want to be, you know, I want to kind of match your energy because it's infectious.
Yeah, let's just say volume 1 without Megan would just be 2 guys being like pun. I mean,
come on.
Pun,
where's
pun,
the cum?
More, yeah, where's the cum?
more like cum.
More like cum.
I like it. Good night, cum.
I know she likes it a lot. I forgot what
Shouldn't
we
have
called.
opened up that window.
I forgot what we called the first episode, and it's so funny. It's Goodnight Pee-Pee because because I think Megan kept saying that. Oh man, it made me laugh when I went back and saw it.
Oh,
but
you
yeah,
guys.
Error, you son of a bitch, dude.
You son of a bitch.
And no one make us be genuine again.
Yeah, that was fucking hard.
It was pretty hard.
I don't like it.
Yeah, man, that was like, that took a lot out of me.
My face hurts from smiling.
Wow. I mean, I think we should probably do that more often, but still, like,
It's kind of
I think that's good.
exhausting.
Yeah.
I feel drained.
I feel
Yeah.
drained, even more so than I did.
Yeah. Anyway, well, that's it. I mean, thank you, Air, for your comment. Thank you for everybody else for all of your comments. We're here. We did it. We're done. Thank you if you've tuned into all 3 separate parts. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate you listening. If you haven't already, especially if you're here, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot. We're about to hit a big milestone for us. So if you could even just like the video, and comment.
We're gonna
subscribe.
The only milestone that actually matters.
It's a big one to us, and so every everything that helps the algorithm, feed the algorithm gods,
do it.
helps us get closer to that
Sacrifice.
goal. And we can't we legitimately and literally can't do it without you. So thank you to our Patreon members. You guys are the fucking best. I know I say it every episode, but yeah, I think we should just end it there and finally put this series behind us.
Let's put it to bed.
Let's say goodnight.
Let's tuck it in
to this series.
Now, did we do that in the first video where we said Goodnight Punpun?
I don't.
Because if we
know.
didn't, I think that's the note to end
I
it
still
on.
think it's perfect to say it again.
Yeah, we could say it again.
Yeah,
Okay.
we should say it again.
Yeah, hopefully. I honestly, if someone's upset with that, I would love that.
yeah. Because it's too perfect to pass up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, it's time to get out of here on our outro that is always the same and
Got a
never changes.
Case of the sleepies over here.
Which today, of course, is... Oh, I usually do that when we don't know what it is, but I do know what it is. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And until next time,
Good night,
Punpun. Yasumi.
Oyasumi. Oishi. Nani?